If for whatever reason DC came to me and said, you can make a movie about any character, who would it be? I would say Green Arrow. 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 A whole trilogy of Green Arrow movies. Green Arrow. Green Arrow. Green Arrow. Green Arrow. Green Arrow. Let's make it worth the wait, right? So, over the past 8 years, I've made it kind of my reputation on this channel as being the Green Arrow guy. I have loved this character for years, as long as I can remember, even before getting into comics. Since I watched Justice League Unlimited as a kid, whether it be his Robin Hood aesthetic, or his humor, or his politics, or hell, even his goatee and his little green hat. Something has always drawn me to him, one way or another, and he's become an incredibly important part of my life. And so when it comes to the CW Arrow show, there are aspects that I do like, but on the whole, that show is more concerned with being Green Batman than anything to do with Oliver Queen, sidelining the things and the characters that make him who he is. Which is a shame, because Green Arrow has such an amazing catalog of stories, some of the best DC has to offer, that he deserves a better chance in the spotlight, especially with the new James Gunn DCU and the possibilities that come with it. It's got me thinking about the best way to do that. Gunn has even mentioned the character by name as someone he's interested in. Whether you be a diehard fan of the comics, a lover of the CW show, or a newcomer to the character altogether. A chance for everybody to see what this character has to offer and what makes him so special. So this is my pitch for Green Arrow. Before we get started, this video is brought to you by Huel. Huel makes nutritionally complete meals that are quick, filling, and actually taste great. Their Black Edition powder is a full meal packed with protein, fiber, and 27 essential vitamins and minerals. Basically everything your body needs to keep going. Oh, it's like human fuel. I'm gonna be honest, I just got that. It's like I'm a car, vroom vroom. I like the chocolate flavor. It's great for when I'm in a hurry or busy and don't have time to cook. It only takes 30 seconds to prepare. It's fully vegan, has vitamin C for your immune system, calcium to support normal digestive function, and B12 to help reduce fatigue. You know that American Dad bit about B12? That's what this is when you think about it. And they've also just launched their Daily Greens RTD, which stands for ready to drink. It was made by registered nutritionists and dietitians with 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods and only 25 calories. My favorite flavor is the peach and hibiscus, and it works great in combination with the Black Edition powder. Together, they keep me full, energized, and not just living off of caffeine. Click the link down below and get 15% off your first order when you use code TROYOBOYO at checkout. Thanks to Huel for sponsoring this video, and thanks to my patrons and channel members who help make this video possible for just $1 a month. We open on a beach, on an island in the middle of the North China Sea. A man with long blonde hair and an overgrown beard slowly trudges his way across the beach. His clothes are tattered, using an old mold-covered sailcloth wrapped around his head for shade. He hasn't eaten in days, his feet are blistered, his knuckles bloody, his skin sunburnt and cracked from dehydration. He's holding something. A makeshift bow made from a couple branches, leaves, and whatever else he could get his hands on. He looks to the sea, where he sees a fish leap into the air before splashing back into the water. The man reaches behind his back to grab a piece of bamboo with a rusty nail tied to the end. The fish leaps out again and back into the water. He only has one shot at this. One chance to make it count. He places the green arrow upon the bowstring and readies his aim. The fish leaps out once more, and the arrow flies through the air. We cut to Star City today. A man steps out of an armored car, the city's own Mayor Dixon. He passes a pair of police officers tasked with his safety, makes his way up the elevator to his apartment, sits on the couch, and watches the news talk about his re-election campaign. Thunder cracks, and we see a hooded figure standing behind him, holding a bow and arrow. By the time the police manage to hear the mayor's muffled screams, they're too late. They break down the door to find the mayor, gagged and bound to a chair. A little beaten up, but alive. Window shattered, the attacker escaped, with dozens and dozens of photos and documents pinned to the wall, all featuring yours truly. Evidence of all sorts of malpractice, taking bribes, underpaying his staff, infidelity, embezzling funds, forging votes, you name it, this punk has done it. There's also a note attached, with only 2 words. Capitalist pig. We cut to a news station reporting on the mayor's arrest before tonight's special event. An exclusive interview 3 years since the miraculous return of Star City's own Oliver Queen. Oliver Queen used to be the worst of the worst, a drunk, arrogant, sexist pig who flaunted his wealth and his power around like it was nothing, and only used it to benefit himself. The dictionary definition of an entitled rich prick. But after being shipwrecked on an island for months, he returned to his home of Star City with a newfound understanding, and even more, with a mission. One of my favorite Green Arrow comics is Green Arrow Year 1 by Andy Diggle and Jock. It follows the events of Oliver Queen's time on the island, from his shipwrecking to learning how to shoot a bow and even taking down a drug ring and liberating the slave camps that were running it. It's a great book, it's a great showcase of Oliver's origin, and beat for beat would make for a great movie on its own. So why am I not just taking that and making that the plot of the movie? Because firstly, that'd be a boring video. What are you talking about? Just read the comic yourself. It's very good. But more so, year one is basically exclusively on the island. Ollie doesn't take on the Green Arrow mantle until literally the last page. And it doesn't have a lot of that iconography of the modern day Robin Hood that I'd want to see in a Green Arrow movie. It'd be like if Batman Begins was all about Bruce's training and ended right here. So instead of just adapting that, or even just rehashing the traditional superhero origin, I want to do something that's a little bit more interesting for me personally to make it my Green Arrow movie. We established that Oliver Queen has been Green Arrow for 3 years, and we get an action scene of him taking out some muggers, armed with a huge arsenal of technology funded by Queen Industries Research and Development. He wears a special lightweight carbon fiber armor. His domino mask has a heads-up display with zoom and infrared. He wields a special compound bow with a draw weight of 200 pounds, and most importantly, a trick arrow for every occasion. He works out of the top floor of Queen Industries, his arrow cave as he calls it, but he should probably come up with a better name, leaping from rooftop to rooftop, going after not just criminals and muggers, but also slumlords and corrupt politicians and anyone else who takes advantage of those in need. I really want to establish Green Arrow as this kind of Iron Man techie character, just with a bow and arrow. During his time on the island, he had to learn how to survive off of nothing. So when he returned home, he used every single resource at his disposal to build this identity, to the point where he's almost relying on it and the money that keeps it all afloat. So what would he do if that all just went away? We cut to an apartment overlooking Queen Industries Tower. As the rain pours, we see a figure looking out the window, murmuring 2 words quietly to himself. Drip, drop. Drip, drop. A man drags himself across the floor, broken and bloody, a knife in his back. He pleads with his attacker. Please, please, I'm begging you, just let me go. The man goes silent. He picks up a black mask and puts it over his face and pulls a gun from his side. Wait, no, please don't. I swear, I'll give you anything you want. Please just bang. The character of Onomatopoeia first appeared in Green Arrow number 12 by Kevin Smith and Phil Hester from 2002, where he was a serial killer targeting non-powered superheroes. And within like a single page, he instantly became not just my favorite Green Arrow villain, but one of my favorite comic book villains of all time. First of all, the gimmick of speaking the on-screen sound effects is such a fun and clever use of the comics medium that I'm surprised it hadn't happened sooner. And beyond that, the dude is he's just creepy. He's appeared like a handful of times since, mostly Batman Cacophony, also by Kevin Smith with art by Walt Flanagan. And in that time, in the 23 years since he's first appeared, we know nothing about him. We don't know his name. We don't know his motives or why he makes those noises. We don't even know what he looks like. He's like Michael Myers if he were a comic book villain. He's just creepy. I love it. And despite the fact that I never know how to spell his name right, go ahead, try it in the comments. I dare you. I am going to put this dude in everything I possibly can. If that's a crime, lock me up and throw away the key. We cut to a charity gala being held at Queen Industries. Oliver's in the crowd, schmoozing with as many people as he can, not just to keep up appearances, but also for recon. This party is filled with the who's who of the DC Universe upper class. You have the biotech CEO Simon Stagg, Max Lord, head of the Justice Gang, pharmaceutical CEO Werner Zeidel. Even AI tech mogul Malcolm Merlin makes an appearance. The sheer amount of net worth in this room alone is enough to feed a whole continent for life, Oliver included. One of the things that I think is very interesting about Oliver Queen is his hypocrisy. He's a character who fundamentally fights for the working class, who hates the people that benefit from an oppressive system that is capitalism. And yet, as a billionaire, he represents everything that's wrong with that system. Sure, he uses that privilege better than most, don't get me wrong. He donates it, pays his employees fairly, invests it into proper causes and legitimate charities, not to mention using it to help the city as Green Arrow, but he still benefits from that status all the same. By Oliver's own beliefs, the act of having this much money goes against the very values that he's defined by. It's why, more often than not, he's not actually a billionaire in the comics, despite how often he's portrayed as such in adaptations. And I'm not doing some Bruce Wayne should spend his money on infrastructure or socialists shouldn't buy houses kind of thing. I mean, I've got a sponsor on this video for God's sake, like, you know, I gotta pay bills too. I just think that the ideological contradiction is part of what makes him so fascinating. And a movie is the perfect opportunity to explore that catch-22 and Oliver making that realization. To ask the question if being a good billionaire is even possible. Oliver makes a few too many snide comments for the company he's with and realizes he has to distract them somehow. So he makes a grand gesture, a massive donation of $1 million for the night's cause. He showboats it all, makes a big deal about it, even says he'll wire the money right now. But when he tries to make the transfer, it fails. The crowd of billionaires start to murmur amongst each other. Oliver, embarrassed, laughs it off at first as some kind of technical glitch. So he tries it again, but still declined. Again and again with no luck. Sure that it's some kind of misunderstanding, he checks his account to see that it's frozen. No, not just frozen, gone. All of his money, his assets, his stock at Queen Industries, all of his resources, everything that Oliver Queen is or ever was. It's completely vanished. Oliver panics and rushes to the nearest elevator, but his pass card doesn't have clearance. He's been completely blocked out. He manually types in the override code, his mother's birthday, and takes the lift up to the top floor. Queen Industries has some of the most advanced cybersecurity on the planet, so this kind of attack, whoever did this could have only done it in person, from Oliver's private office. He rushes to his computer and checks the security tapes, which confirm his suspicions. We see the feed from just minutes ago. A man in a black mask breaking into the office, killing any guards or civilians who stood in his way. He uses a USB drive to hack into Oliver's computer and transfers every single one of his assets to an encrypted offshore account. The man looks up at the camera and waves before the feed flickers to black. This isn't the work of some amateur hacker. This was targeted. Whatever's going on, it's not a job for Oliver Queen, but for the Green Arrow. Oliver says the access code and the office transforms into his base of operations. The paintings on the walls flip to reveal different types of bows and arrows, different sets of armors and equipment on the wall, targets for training, you name it. But something's different. The walls of the base are sprawled with blood. At first, it just seems like some random lines, but when Oliver stands in just the right spot, they line up to reveal a message. One single word. Boom. And the top floor of Queen Industries Tower explodes in a ball of flame. Up to this point, I would want us to take inspiration from the early New 52 Green Arrow stories, which began in 2011 by JT Kroll and Dan Ju. Now, for those who don't know, the initial part of the New 52 Green Arrow it wasn't very good. It's no fault of the creative teams behind the book. Kroll literally wrote for Green Arrow before the reboot, which was a ton of fun. I actually really like that run. Nobody talks about that enough. You even had powerhouse creators later in the book, like Dan Jurgens or Ann Nesenti, who've done incredible work with other titles like Superman and Daredevil, and still the book just wasn't working. Editorial during the New 52 really restricted creatives a lot, which is why so much of it is really hit or miss. And thankfully isn't the case with the New Absolute Universe. I'll talk about it later, don't worry. But those first 6 issues, Oliver was brash and annoying. There wasn't any really political subtext to him. And in general, it seemed like DC was really trying to make Green Arrow into, I don't want to say a worse version of Iron Man, because technically Iron Man is like a copy of Green Arrow. We don't want to get into that. Without any of the charm of either, making it one of the weakest lines in all the New 52. But, and here's a big but here, that all changed in 2013 with issue 17, when DC wanted to relaunch the book for new readers to coincide with his new TV show on the CW, thus beginning Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino's time on the character. This run is, it's so good. To start, the art is outstanding. Sorrentino uses these stark white pages with splashes of color and these gorgeous panel layouts to emphasize the precision and brutality of these characters. But beyond that, Lemire managed to do the impossible. He was basically tasked to come onto the sinking ship of a book, and despite having no prior knowledge of the character before this, turn it into one of the best Green Arrow stories in years. And he did this by blowing him up along with all of his friends. Oliver Queen was framed for murder. His assets were frozen, his allies were dead. He had literally nothing left except a couple of arrows in the skin of his teeth, with no other choice but to crawl his way back. Oliver managed to leap behind his desk in the nick of time. He frees himself from the rubble and debris. Surrounded by fire and flames, he barely makes it out before the roof collapses on top of him. Covered in dirt and dust, he's lucky he's made it out with just a couple broken ribs. As sirens wail in the distance, Oliver sneaks out of the building and limps down back streets and alleys. On screens and billboards, he sees the news. Queen Industries attacked in a bombing, and Oliver Queen is missing, presumed dead. He's not sure who's behind this, or why, or who that masked man was, but he knows one thing. Whoever it is knows that Oliver Queen is the Green Arrow. Careful to avoid any lights or security cameras, he makes his way a couple blocks over to an old storage unit. He set it up months ago, just as a backup storage to hold some old gear. He basically forgot about it until now. He opens up the door and sees what he has to work with, and it's not much. In total, 11 arrows. 6 pointed tip, 2 explosive, 1 grapple, a smoke bomb arrow, and an arrow with a boxing glove at the end that he made as a joke. It's nothing. It's worse than nothing. He has no weapons, no money, no resources. Someone out there knows who he is, wants him dead, and all he has left to work with to fight back is scraps. The last time he felt this helpless was, Oliver takes a deep breath. He's been in worse positions before, and he made it out. He'll figure out what's going on. He'll find his company back, and he'll find whoever's after him. Besides, the whole world thinks he's dead. At the very least, he'll have the element of a boot slams into Oliver's face. He tries to fight back, but he's overpowered. Oliver likes to think he's pretty tough, but this speed, this skill, it's unlike anything he's ever fought before. There's a high-pitched shriek, so loud that it shatters glass and sends Oliver flying back. His attacker steps into the light, and we see a woman with long blonde hair, wearing black leather and a pair of fishnets. I genuinely believe if you're adapting Green Arrow and you somehow manage to screw up Black Canary, you have fundamentally failed. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Not only is she one of my favorite characters at DC in her own right, able to carry her own solo book and team books and even be a heavy hitter on the Justice League, but every time she's part of a Green Arrow story, she just instantly elevates it. At their core, their relationship works because they're equals. For as much as Oliver talks about lower income communities and the working class, Dinah is the one who actually has firsthand experience of that. So for this movie, instead of having her as just a supporting character or a love interest, I want her to basically be the co-lead and turn the whole thing into kind of a buddy cop movie. You could say a lot about her Canary cry or her fighting skills and all that stuff, and I've made some very bold claims, but I'm sticking to them. But one of the biggest things that Dinah represents is the concept of legacy, because Black Canary is actually one of the first legacy heroes in all of comics. Her mother, Dinah Drake, first appeared in Flash Comics number 86 in 1947, created by Robert Kaniger and artist Carmine Infantino. And Dinah Lance, the modern Black Canary that we all know and love, wasn't until JLA number 75 by Denny O'Neil and Dick Dillon in 1969. I mean, technically, at the time she didn't realize she was Dinah Lance. There was like some weird stuff. She thought she was her mom, because there was like a retcon like 20 years later. And she had her mom's memories because they wanted to make her younger. It doesn't matter because technically this is her first appearance, and also the cover is much cooler. And that relationship with her mother was a defining part of a lot of her stories for a huge part of her history. It's something that the Birds of Prey movie touched on that I really liked. I don't know how we'd fit Dinah Drake into like the 40s anymore, but I think having her mom be like a retired superhero from like the 90s or early 2000s could really set Dinah apart from other characters in this DCU. As for the casting, it'd be fun to cast someone who can actually sing and make like a real album for her. DC actually did that back in 2015 with Brianna Lee as the vocals to tie into Brendan Fletcher and Andy Wu's run, depending if I'm allowed to use it. You're listening to it right now. We rewind the clock 48 hours as Dinah Laurel Lance rides her motorcycle into Star City. Her first stop is a dive bar in the bad part of town. She orders a drink and asks the bartender about a picture. An old friend of hers goes by the name of Sin. Nobody's heard from her in 2 weeks, and Dinah's come to the city to find her. One of the bargoers recognizes Dinah, either from her singing career as the C-list vigilante Black Canary, or because she owes him money, or probably all three, honestly. He stands up, all dizzy, and it leads to a bar fight that showcases just how skilled Dinah is, including her Canary cry. She starts investigating around town, asking around, putting up missing posters, and she very quickly learns that Sin isn't the first person to disappear. For years throughout the city, people have been going missing, taken right out from their homes in the slums, and then exactly 3 weeks later, they turn up dead. And the cops aren't doing anything about it as expected. Whoever's doing this is specifically targeting people that fall through the cracks. Immigrants, trans people, people of color, the working class, sometimes even kids. If you don't fit a specific profile and look a certain way, the city doesn't give two shits about it. Sin is just another in a long line of disappearances. And if it's like the others, Dinah only has a week left to find her friend. Her only lead is a guy in a black mask who people are calling Onomatopoeia. He's been spotted stalking every missing person just before their disappearance and fleeing the scene where the body was found. She was hoping to run into him tonight before wannabe Hawkeye over here got in her way. Oliver, his head still spinning from getting his ass kicked, has no idea how he hasn't heard about this before. And Dinah says that maybe he isn't as Robin Hood as he thought he was. And Oliver realizes that this guy isn't just targeting him, but he's been hurting the entire city right under his nose without him noticing. And the two of them agree to team up to take this asshole down. Wannabe Hawkeye, come on, I was first. They start their investigation, and it leads them to the apartment we saw Onomatopoeia in earlier in the movie, along with his victim. They investigate the crime scene, trying to find anything that the killer left behind that could lead them to him. But he thought of everything. It's completely spotless. The only thing they can find is some bullet casings and a torn piece of blue paper in the victim's pockets. There's also something weird about the body. In addition to the bullet hole, it looks like his eardrums were burst somehow. Throughout the whole investigation, Diane and Ollie start growing closer and closer. If you ask me, Green Arrow and Black Canary's relationship is one of the most important in all of comic books. They are on the same level as Clark and Lois, Reed and Sue, Peter and MJ, which makes it especially crazy that the CW shafted Black Canary to set Oliver up with a blonde hacker girl that was basically an original character. And not just once, twice. But besides that though, Smallville Green Arrow, oh, he's the best. I love that guy. It matters so much that when DC Rebirth kicked off in 2016 with the goal of fixing a lot of the mistakes of the New 52, two things happened for Green Arrow. One, he got his goatee back, and two, he got back together with Dinah. That was basically the entire point of that run, just those two things. I want Oliver and Dinah's relationship to feel natural and earned, but at the same time, like we're watching these two people who are destined to be together meeting for the first time. I also want their respective arcs to bounce off of each other. Maybe Dinah starts the movie and she's a little bit more cynical and jaded. After everything that she and her mom have been through, she genuinely doesn't believe anybody with power wants to make a difference, at least without some hidden agenda, until she meets Oliver. In the same way that Dinah is showing Oliver the harsh realities of the people on the ground, Oliver could be showing her that there is still hope that people want to make a difference. Eventually, Dinah learns about Oliver's secret identity. I think it could be really fun if Dinah and Oliver actually met before years earlier, but he doesn't remember. Maybe Dinah was singing at a club or working as a waitress somewhere before Oliver went to the island, so she met him at his absolute worst when he was a drunken prick. To showcase not just how much he's changed since, but also during that time in his life, he didn't even think twice about people in the service industry. I would also want to have a kind of campfire moment between the two of them where Oliver talks about the island and about his dad, Robert, who was the one who first taught him archery. He used to say that arrows always had a way of finding their target in the end, whatever that means. Before he was mauled by lions, of course. That's not a joke. That's seriously how his parents died. It's crazy. I love it. Maybe it's at this campfire where Oliver makes a pot of chili for Dinah. She expects it to be total garbage, the result of a silver spoon asshole who's never cooked in his life, but she gets a taste of it and actually, hang on, hold up. In the pages of Green Arrow's Secret Files and Origins from 2002, there's an official recipe for this chili. So let me verify this myself. Wait, holy shit, this is good. Throughout their investigation, they end up crossing paths with Onomatopoeia again, and eventually one name keeps on coming up. Again and again. Malcolm Merlin, the tech giant CEO who was at Oliver's party. It all adds up. He would have something to gain taking Oliver off the map. He has the connections to hire someone like Onomatopoeia, the money to pay off the people that matter. Hell, he even does archery in his spare time. It's like he's the anti-Oliver Queen, and every piece of evidence points to him being the one behind the kidnappings. Canary and Arrow break into his home to interrogate him, where they find him dead. They're chasing the wrong guy. His corpse is unlike anything they've ever seen. Blood pouring out of his eyes, his eardrums ruptured. Some kind of electromagnetic frequency fried his brain from the inside. If Oliver didn't know any better, he'd say it was like an extreme case of vertigo. Count Vertigo first appeared in World's Finest number 251 by Jerry Conway and Trevor Von Eden from 1978. And with the exception of Onomatopoeia, he is easily my favorite Green Arrow villain. And for some reason, CW Arrow just wasted him by making him a ripoff of a Batman villain. Again, not once, but twice. A lot of people would believe that Merlin, the Dark Archer, is the big bad Green Arrow villain. That he's Oliver's nemesis, the dark reflection of everything that he represents. But really, when you take a look at Merlin's stories, he's kind of not. Like, he can be cool, don't get me wrong. We've got good stuff with him, but like, he's just another guy with a bow and arrow. Whoop-de-fucking-do, not like we don't have enough of those running around. And in reality, I think Count Vertigo comes much closer to that anti-Green Arrow than anyone else. He may not run around with a bow and arrow, but thematically, he represents every possible wrong turn that Oliver could have become. Werner Zeidel comes from a long line of monsters. His family escaped the Nuremberg trials and seized power in the European country of Vladova. They enforced ethnic cleansing, eugenics, forced sterilization, and brutal executions against those who resisted. Werner was born with a severe inner ear defect, needing a chip in his ear that used electromagnetic frequencies to regulate his sense of balance, which without proper control could disrupt the inner ear balance of those around him, altering their perception of reality and even killing them, dubbing him the nickname Count Vertigo. When he was a child, he was outcast by his family due to his disability, and when he mastered his abilities, he returned to his country to reclaim his throne. After surviving off of nothing, he claimed that he was a changed man. Instead of continuing his family's atrocities, Werner was a benevolent ruler, curing the sick of Vladova, and has even brought that kindness to America with his pharmaceutical company. He's been creating new and effective treatment for cancer, dizziness, even the common cold. Oliver realizes that there's only one person who could have the information they need: Star City Mayor Dixon, who was released from jail due to insufficient evidence. And the fact that he got arrested by a guy with a bow and arrow, that would probably do it too. The two of them do a bit of good arrow, bad canary, and are able to intimidate information out of him about who's taking the missing people and what it has to do with Oliver Queen. He tells them that for years, Count Vertigo has been abducting people off the streets and using them as test subjects for Zeidel's pharmaceutical company. Human trials and experiments he could never get approved legally. The mayor doesn't know what the experiments are or what he's been making, but when he's done with them, he just dumps their bodies and finds another. And every 3 weeks, the mayor gets a big wad of cash to just look the other way. As for Oliver Queen, he was starting to grow a conscience, talking about unionize this, socialism that. With his resources, it was only a matter of time before he caught on and blew the whistle. So Vertigo took all his money and had his masked goon put an end to him, to make an example for anyone else who thought about doing the same. Back in October, DC Comics released Absolute Evil, a one-shot written by Al Ewing with art by Giuseppe Camuncoli. This was a part of their ongoing Absolute universe, and was the first appearance of Absolute Green Arrow, who's going to have a miniseries this spring. The book starts with Oliver Queen, who was never stranded on the island and never became a superhero. He's on the phone arguing with Roy Harper. He says he's discovered a child exploitation ring being run out of a billionaire's private island, which is horrifyingly all too familiar. We then follow the various villains from throughout the Absolute universe, like Joker, Veronica Cale, Ra's al Ghul, Eleanor Thawne, Hector Hammond. They have a meeting discussing the various superheroes, and Cale asks to send in Mr. Hall, and Hawkman enters the room carrying Oliver Queen's dead body over his shoulder. When this book came out, I got so many people tagging me and DMing me and commenting about it, and it makes sense. You know, I'm the Green Arrow guy, and literally I made a video last year pitching my Absolute Green Arrow comic idea, but I think in all of the hubbub of, oh my god, Absolute Green Arrow died, he didn't last a single issue, which isn't true, by the way. We're still getting that miniseries next year. I don't know why so many people are saying that. A lot of people missed what that story was actually saying. It was literally about Oliver Queen, who wasn't even a superhero, starting to challenge challenge the status quo and the crimes of the wealthy elite. And what happened to him? He got killed for it. Assassinated, literally off screen, with his lifeless corpse shown on display in brutal fashion. All for daring to speak up. It was a story that was fundamentally about modern McCarthyism and how that still exists in today's world. Very intentionally using the socialist superhero being killed by his longtime rival to make that extra clear. The mayor says that Queen had to be taken out. He knew so much more than he realized. Eventually, he would have told everybody about the blam. A bullet enters the mayor's skull, and we see Onomatopoeia holding the smoking gun. He makes a break for it, Oliver uses up a couple of arrows, and they chase him through the city on Dinah's bike, but they end up losing him in a crowd. Oliver thinks about what the mayor said, that he knew more than he realized, but he had no clue what he was talking about. But Oliver recognizes that name, Werner Seidel. He sees his pharmaceuticals everywhere. It's weird, from everything Oliver heard about him, he seemed like a good enough guy. He's the ruler of some European country. What was it called? Like Sokovia or Latveria? Vladimir, that's what it was. He'd been to the castle once for a business meeting years ago. If Stin and the other victims are anywhere, it has to be there. But there's a problem. Oliver has no way of getting there. He used to have what he liked to call the aeroplane, but that's gone now. And Dinah says that he'll have to travel the world like all the rest of them, by coach. After a grueling 11 hours for Oliver with no legroom and a crying baby next to him the whole time, they finally make it to the castle. They break their way inside and they enter a huge stone hall. We see Werner Seidel sitting in a throne waiting for them. Oliver instinctively fires one of his arrows at him, but Onomatopoeia catches it out of the air and breaks it with a snap. Vertigo waves his lapdog down and says that there's no need for violence, Mr. Queen. Please, you're the only one stupid enough to wear that beard on your face and not cover it with a mask. Hey, it's not stupid, is it? Is it? I don't think you want to hear my opinion. They tell Vertigo that they know all about what he's doing, about the abductions and the experiments, and they're here to bring him in. Vertigo says he has no idea what they're talking about. He holds up a dossier, pages and pages of paperwork that show everything he's doing with his company is completely legal, and that Oliver should know that. He tosses it at Green Arrow's feet, but Oliver doesn't want to hear it. All of a sudden, he hears a faint buzzing sound that gets louder and louder until it's roaring in his skull. The world around him starts to spin. Up is down, left is right. He feels like he's underwater. Oliver readies another arrow. He can barely even stand. It's like his head is about to... That's when he realizes, oh shit. Dinah, I think I grabbed the wrong arrow. It's not the boxing glove, is it? Nope. Just, get ready. Oliver points the bow at the ground and fires. The explosive arrow shatters the stone floor beneath them and they fall into the darkness below. They crash into a network of underground tunnels that run beneath the whole castle. The impact knocked the wind out of them, but somehow they survived, putting just enough distance between them and Vertigo to get away. You could have warned me. Warn you? What do you think I was doing? Oliver brushes the dirt off of the suit and sees something on the ground. Vertigo's dossier. It survived the explosion. Out of morbid curiosity, he grabs it just in case. Oliver says he remembers hearing that the Seidel family used these old tunnels to escape whenever the Vladimir citizens tried to fight back. They should be able to find a way out through them. So we're escaping through Nazi tunnels? Try not to think about it like that. They escape through the Nazi tunnels where they come across a hangar filled with private jets. See, now we're talking. The two of them steal one of the jets and make off back towards Star City. Oliver turns on the autopilot and leaves the cockpit where we see Dinah reading through Vertigo's dossier. Now, I know these things are gas guzzlers and all, but I'm telling you, this is my kind of living. Dinah is silent. Oliver asks what's wrong and she hands him the paper. At first, he doesn't understand. This is everything they needed. Shell companies, human testing, proof of Seidel's experiments. Sure, it's nothing illegal, but it's the best lead they can go off of. But then he sees the bottom of the page and the signature of the person who approved funding for all of this. Oliver Queen. Green Arrow is a character with a deep level of guilt and regret. For his whole life, he was the worst kind of person in the world. And just because he crashed on an island and realized the error of his ways, that doesn't mean those mistakes didn't happen. He still made those choices, hurt people even. And he has to live with the consequences of his old life forever. I believe that growth is one of the most important qualities that a person can have. No matter how many people try to tell you otherwise, everybody has their own regrets in life. I have regrets in my life. Nobody is born perfect, and having those regrets shows how much we've grown. It shows that the time since our mistakes and our failures have changed us for the better. That we can look back on our younger selves and feel a bit of resentment, guilt, or even cringe. Green Arrow is a character that asks the question, what does it mean to be a better person? What does it mean to grow? How can you show the world that you've changed? And does the world have to believe that? Oliver is speechless. He had no idea. He tries to explain to Dinah that before the island, he was a different person. He inherited this billion-dollar corporation and didn't know what to do with it. So he would just trust his advisors, take pictures, shake hands, sign papers, whatever was put in front of him without question, never thinking about where this money came from or where it was going. He wasn't malicious, but he was too ignorant, too stupid to care. And Dinah believes him. She knows the person that he used to be, and that's not who he is anymore. But still, it's been 6 days since she got to Star City. If the timeline is right, they only have 24 hours left to find Sin before she's killed. baffled. Oliver isn't in his right head right now, plus they've already wasted too much time on this goose chase to Europe. She knows he's hurting, but she also knows she can't lose Sin, so she figures that it's best if she does the rest of this solo. When their plane lands in Star City, it becomes swarmed with reporters. After their encounter, Werner Seidel made a public statement revealing Oliver Queen to be alive. Vertigo spun some story about a cyber attack, faking Oliver's death and keeping him safe in his castle, framing himself as the hero, of course. He even stored all of his money and assets himself for safekeeping until the threat was dealt with. Anything for Star City's favorite son. And now that he's back in town and alive, everything that is Oliver Queen, his wealth, his assets, his company, it's been returned. In all the commotion, Oliver manages to sneak away from the crowd into a local diner. He sits at the table, wallowing in his own guilt. He can't believe that he had, even in some part, been involved in something like this. As Oliver holds his head in his hands, a man walks by the table. In his back pocket, Oliver notices something, a piece of blue paper, identical to the torn one that they found on the victim. Oliver grabs a hold of the guy and interrogates him about the paper. And he says, "Ah shit, I forgot to return my punch card. This is the third time this week." Turns out, the paper is a corner that was torn off of a punch card for a time clock. The old school kind, where you literally punch in and punch out to track how many hours you're working. There's no way Oliver would have recognized it. He figures that the victim must have grabbed it before his death in the hopes that somebody would make the connection. The rest of the city's gone fully digital, so the only place left that uses this kind is the fish processing plant down by the docks. Oliver rushes out the diner and calls Dinah, but it goes to voicemail. He tells her everything about the punch card and the docks, but he realizes something. He doesn't have his suit. When he slipped away from the press, he managed to sneak out with his bow, his quiver, and his mask, but he didn't bring his armor with him, and he can't get to it in time. That's when, across the street, he sees an ATM and a Halloween shop, and on display in the window, a Robin Hood costume, complete with a little green hat. Oliver makes it to the fish factory in his new getup. At the punch card station, he notices scuffs all along the floor. He runs his fingers along the walls and corners, searching for any kind of, bingo, a secret door. Hidden underneath the factory is a lab. He sees test tubes, surgery tables, machinery, electrodes, dripping IV bags, and cages filled with the missing people, including Sin. Oliver starts to free them before he hears a sound. Drip, drop, drip. He dodges just in time for the knife to barely miss his head. Clang, and Onomatopoeia rushes at him. "Oh, come on, not you again." He tries to fight him off, but Oliver's no match for the masked maniac's speed and skill. Blam, bang, thwack. Every movement a sound, and every sound more deadly than the last. Onomatopoeia feints a swing and stabs Oliver in the leg. Slice. He pins him down and holds a knife up to his throat. "Hey asshole, what does this sound like?" And Onomatopoeia looks up to see the Black Canary as she screams as loud as she can in his ears. He flies back, slamming into the wall, knocked out cold. The two of them have a little moment before freeing the test subjects from their cages, and Dinah finally reunites with Sin. But Oliver notices something weird about this lab. He asks Sin what they were doing here, and she tells him that they were being tested to create a cure to vertigo. Now, that doesn't make any sense. Why would Count Vertigo want to cure vertigo? That's when Oliver realizes what it's all been about. This entire time, it's about what it's always been about: profit. For God knows how long, Seidel has been emitting a low-level vertigo wave across the whole city, just like the one in his brain. But it's so small, only the most vulnerable people have noticed anything. The elderly, the sick, even people who had a long day at work. And he's been selling the cure to it at an exorbitantly high price. He's forcing people to go into debt, foreclose their houses, just so they can stand up straight. There's a laugh from the doorway, and Count Vertigo congratulates Green Arrow on solving the case. His patented subliminal wave generator has been keeping his company and his country's pockets full for years, and he has plans to expand across all of America, across the whole world, to get everybody on the planet paying for his drug. And he's not going to stop it now. Vertigo's chip activates again, making Oliver's world warp around him. He falls to his knees, slowly limping his way towards Seidel. The closer he gets, the more powerful he becomes. Vertigo tells him that it took him his whole life to master the vertigo, and no matter how hard Oliver tries, he'll never be able to overcome it. Not even enough to aim one measly arrow. Good thing I don't have to aim. Oliver looks to Dinah and nods, and she unleashes the canary cry at Vertigo. At the same time, Oliver takes an arrow from his quiver and jams it into the side of Vertigo's head, right into the device on his ear. The Count screams and collapses to the ground, but the vertigo sensation doesn't stop. In fact, it's getting stronger. As blood pours out from the side of his head, Seidel cries out, "You idiot! That chip wasn't meant just for him. It was a power regulator for the subliminal wave generator. The only thing keeping it stable. Without it, it's going into overdrive. In less than a minute, it'll kill everybody in the whole city." He tells him it's on the other side of the harbor, disguised as a radio antenna, but they'll never make it there in time. Arrow and Canary rush outside to the docks. The vertigo effect is growing stronger and stronger. Within 45 seconds, everybody in a 10-mile radius will have their brains turned to mush. Oliver zooms in with his heads-up display as far as he can and locates the device at the top of a radio tower. There's an exposed copper wire that leads to the power source. If he could just... No, he can't. It has to be at least a mile away with a target the size of a penny. It's impossible. But there's no time. It's their only option. He reaches behind him to his quiver and fires an arrow. It misses. Only 2 left. He fires again and it misses. The vertigo effect getting stronger and stronger. His mask short-circuits focus from the interference, and the zoomed-in heads-up display flickers to black. This is it, his last real arrow. He only has one shot at this, one chance to make it count. Oliver takes a deep breath and closes his eyes. You have to relax, Ollie. We see a young boy, no older than 12, holding a bow and arrow, trying to hit an apple. There's a man guiding him. I can't do it, Dad. The arrows aren't flying straight. The man laughs. Of course they're not. Most people think that an arrow always flies in a perfect straight line, but that's not true. It struggles, bending, spinning, wobbling out of shape. The forces of air and gravity and who knows what else pushing against it. You just have to hope that it catches the right wind like it's being willed along by a song. He helps the boy ready another shot. Oliver opens his eyes and looks beside him to see Dinah Laurel Lance, the most beautiful, strong, amazing woman he has ever met in his entire life. When he looks in her eyes, it's like the world stops to hear her music. But here's a little trick. Every time you look down your bow, if you wish hard enough, aim with such a hope that not even the forces of nature can stop you, the arrow will always find its way in the end. Oliver lets the arrow loose. It soars through the air, spinning, bending, and warping, the winds and forces of the earth raging against it. It hits the apple, the fish, and the device, disabling it. Count Vertigo, cornered, screams in pain and rage, almost like a toddler. The persona of benevolent king and good billionaire drops, and he starts spouting how he really feels. That the Zytals are born out of pure blood. These people are nothing to him, and they deserve to be treated like dogs. He picked himself up by his bootstraps and made a name for himself, and the only reason Queen beat him is because of this woke DEI prop. Oh my god, will you shut the fuck up? Oliver grabs his only arrow left, the boxing glove, and sucker punches Vertigo right in his jaw, knocking him out cold. Vertigo is arrested and taken to jail, not for the fraud or the kidnapping or the illegal experiments. No, of course not. He could spin that however he wants, but for the itty bitty little thing of almost killing everybody in the city with radio waves. But Onomatopoeia is nowhere to be found. His body disappeared without a trace. Poof. We cut to Oliver holding a press conference to address the past few days. He'll be donating a massive sum to the Vertigo victims and their families in hopes of returning them to a normal and happy life in the wake of that maniac's crimes. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but because he's personally responsible for allowing this to continue. He says that the past few days have been difficult, maybe even the most challenging in years. And if his time on the island taught him anything, besides the importance of a good sunblock, it was that these sorts of things happen for a reason. He's had a lot of time to think, and he learned a lot in his time away. Not only about the world around him, but also about himself. How he was personally responsible for a lot of the pain that the people of Star City are put through. Whether intentional or not, he still made those mistakes, and it's a cross he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. Oliver thought that what he was doing was right. He thought that he was using his position, his power, his wealth for good. But he sees now that no matter what he does, no matter how much good he does, the act of being in his position does people harm. To have earned this much money and hold this much wealth is to hoard it from the people who need it. That the B in billionaire is for the blood of the working class who put him there. And that's why he's giving it all up. Every asset, every square foot of land, every penny, everything that made him who he thought he was, is being returned to the people who need it most. When Green Arrow first debuted in More Fun Comics number 73 by Mort Weisinger and George Papp in 1941, he was, for all intents and purposes, a Batman clone. He was a billionaire with an arrow car, an aeroplane, a teenage sidekick, and a bunch of gadgets with his trick arrows. And those stories are a ton of fun for what they are. I love Golden Age Green Arrow. But he was so much of a Batman clone, people were writing into editorial begging to kill the character off because he served no purpose. But that all changed in 1970 with Green Lantern Green Arrow number 76 by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, also known as Hard Traveling Heroes. It follows Oliver Queen with Hal Jordan, who had lost sight of the people he was supposed to be protecting as Green Lantern. So the two go on a road trip across America, confronting real-world issues like poverty, corruption, racism, substance abuse. A lot of the topics explored in this 55-year-old book are still relevant today. I have talked about this run so many times before on this channel, I feel like I'm a broken record, but there's a reason for that. The entire modern understanding of Oliver Queen came from this book. O'Neil injected his own personal political beliefs into the character, which were incredibly progressive for the time. He turned this character, who was a parody of Robin Hood for all intents and purposes, into the genuine article, who fought the rich and gave to the poor, forging him into a hero for the working class. And along with Neil Adams, who created his signature goatee and hat design, the two of them changed the course of this character forever. He's stepping away from his company and created something that he's calling the Robin Hood Initiative, ensuring in perpetuity that his employees are paid not just a living wage, but a comfortable one, and 100% of the company's profits will now go directly to causes that he believes in for the city. Affordable housing, free healthcare, education, transportation, universal basic income, all out of the pocket of Queen Industries. Oliver knows it can't fix everything. The system is too broken for just him to do that. But at the very least, for now, he hopes it can be enough. The crowd of reporters erupts in confusion and panic, and all Oliver Queen walks off stage to find Dinah Laurel Lance greeting him. So what's the city's most eligible bachelor gonna do now that he's on a billionaire CEO? I figured I'd get that bachelor part dealt with. What do you say? Well, that depends. Can you cook a good pot of chili? Like you wouldn't believe, pretty bird. Oh, I guess we should do a credit scene here, shouldn't we? Are we still doing that with the DCU? I feel like we're not. Credit scenes are they're kind of out of style now, aren't they? Whatever, let's do a credit scene. We see Green Arrow standing on a fire escape overlooking the city, enjoying his first days as one of the people. Arrows will be expensive, but he'll figure that out down the line. He's made do with worse. That's when he hears a voice behind him. You did good work today. Oliver turns to see Batman emerging from the shadows. A few of us are making a team, a way we can do the most good with what we have. What, like those guys over at Lord Tech? Not interested. I've had enough corporate bullshit for one lifetime. A little different than that. Besides, your girlfriend put in a good word for you. Batman grapples away and disappears into the night, and Green Arrow looks off into the distance after him. Wow. What a fucking prick. And that is my long-awaited pitch for a Green Arrow movie. This has been a long time coming. This is a character that I'm very passionate about. I love his stories and I love everything about him. And I've had so many ideas that I couldn't really fit them into one movie. And so that's why. Green Arrow in the comics has kind of three distinct personalities, depending on the era. First, you have the original Golden Age stuff where he was just knockoff Batman. Second, you have the Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams era. And thirdly, you have Mike Grell's run of the character, which began in 1987 with the Longbow Hunters. Grell depicted Oliver as older, more violent, and deeply cynical to reflect the politics of the 80s. He tried to believe that the world could change for the better, but time and time again, he was proven wrong. So much so that in the 2000s, it took some crazy comic book gobbledygook to bring him back to that more hopeful optimism. Both O'Neil and Grell's depictions are equally legendary, two of the greatest runs in all of comic book history, and both hugely defining for this character. And so what I want to do is take those two eras for the character and sort of bridge them. How does somebody go from a hopeful crusader who believes in institutions to a hunter who thinks the fight is already lost? What could drive him to that point? If the first movie was about the system being broken, about how the people in power use flaws and loopholes to exploit the vulnerable, the sequel is about the opposite, that the system isn't broken. It's working entirely as intended. So this is my pitch for Green Arrow Supermax. We open on a Star City high-rise in the office of Simon LaCroix, CEO of Komodo Industries, one of the country's top weapons manufacturers. He's sitting at his desk on the phone, the glow of the city behind him, talking to a colleague about how someone's got to put an end to this whole Robin Hood thing. That's when his front door bursts open and a man barges into the room. He's wearing tactical gear with a hood and a mask hiding his face. LaCroix tries to call out for a security detail, but they're already dead. The assassin is quick, clinical, with zero hesitation. He fires 3 arrows into the CEO's chest, killing him instantly. The assassin kneels behind the desk, calmly pulls something out of his pocket, and places it right next to the corpse. As the blood pours out from the CEO's chest, the killer escapes out the open window into the cold night air. And we see what it was that he left behind. An ID card for Queen Industries, property of Oliver Queen. We established it's been 2 years since the first movie. Oliver has completely abandoned the billionaire lifestyle for a more simple one. He and Dinah run a flower shop that they live out of called Sherwood Florist. It's not flashy or glamorous, but he's happy. The two of them still go out as Green Arrow and Black Canary, stopping crime and helping people wherever they can. His arsenal has been severely limited, but he still makes a difference. They've even become part of a larger team called the Justice League. But more importantly, Oliver Queen, the civilian, is seen as a hero. The Robin Hood project that he set up 2 years ago has proven to be incredibly successful. Crime is down, the streets are clean, housing is affordable again, basic services are finally reaching neighborhoods that hadn't seen investment in decades, all funded from the pockets of Queen Industries. Oliver's old company is nowhere near the top of the stock markets anymore, but their business connections, along with Oliver's fortune to get them started, has kept them still making a heavy enough profit to fund this endeavor. And whatever the Robin Hood initiative lacks is picked up by Green Arrow. He spends his nights sleeping from rooftop to rooftop, preventing those in power from clawing that ground back. The city is not some perfect utopia, not by any means. Oliver didn't rewrite capitalism or change the laws, he just moved some money around. But it is successful. The citizens of Star City are thriving, happy. It shows that when resources are actually directed toward people and not just shareholders, problems get solved a lot faster than you'd think. But there are some people who don't like that. We cut back to the high-rise where the CEO is killed. Now daytime, it's crawling with police, namely Special Agent Eddie Fires, who volunteered for the case. Simon LaCroix was the #1 name in weapons manufacturing. His name is on every missile from Gotham to Baravia. This isn't just some random killing. It means something. Someone is trying to say something, spark something. Security footage of the murder has been making the rounds online, starting a citywide manhunt to find what the press is calling the Komodo killer. The footage is corrupted though, incomplete. Fires pulls the ID card from the pool of blood and sees the name, Oliver Queen. One of the officers says that they'll put out an APB on Queen and bring him in for questioning, but Fires says not to worry. I know exactly where he'll be. We hear the sound of bells, wedding bells, and we cut to a church because today is the day Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance are getting married. Green Arrow and Black Canary's wedding in the comics was a who's who of DC, with them inviting, and I quote, everybody. I'm assuming at this point in the DCU, whenever a Green Arrow 2 would happen, we'd have a formal Justice League made and a bunch of other heroes popping up around the universe. And so this could be a fun moment to bring them all into one place, at least their secret identities. We see Clark Kent, Diana Prince, Kendra Saunders, maybe Hal Jordan is the best man, depending on how Lanterns turns out, I don't know. Not to mention Sin, Barbara Gordon, Helena Bertinelli, even JSA members like Ted Grant and Alan Scott. Bruce Wayne couldn't make it though. Music starts to play and down the aisle walks Dinah Lance, dressed in all white, including fishnets. Good God, would you look at that. The ceremony begins, the two of them say their vows, exchange their rings, and the officiator says, I now pronounce you husband, and the doors of the church burst open, and a squad of officers in tactical gear flood into the halls. They rush towards Oliver and Dinah, guns drawn. Leading the charge is Eddie Fires. The officers hold back Dinah and anyone else who tries to fight back, as Fires slams Oliver's head into the lectern and cuffs him in front of his friends, his colleagues, his wife. Oliver Jonas Queen, I'm placing you under arrest for murder. The police raid the flower shop in Oliver's apartment, and the next thing he knows, he's in an interrogation room across from Special Agent Fires. Good news is Oliver still has his secret identity. Ollie made sure that Dinah was able to get all of his gear out before the police got there. Fires seems to have no clue that he's the Green Arrow. The bad news is pretty much everything else. Fires lays out what they have on Oliver. His ID card was found at the scene of LaCroix's murder, and security footage shows a masked man breaking in and killing the CEO with 3 arrows to the chest. He knows that Oliver used to practice archery when he was a kid, and he's had multiple disputes with Simon LaCroix and Komodo Industries weapon manufacturing and private militia. Oliver says, yeah, he was a piece of shit profiting off the murder of children, and before he can finish his thought, Fires notes that as a motive. But Oliver knows for a fact he didn't do it. Against the judgment of his lawyer, he says he'll even take a lie detector test to prove it. Which, fun fact by the way, invented by the creator of Wonder Woman? That's not even a bit, it's a cool thing I learned. Fires hooks him up to the polygraph machine. Oliver thinks it should be a breeze as an innocent man, until Fires asks the question, where were you the night of the murder? Oliver remembers exactly where he was, leaping from rooftop to rooftop as Green Arrow. But he can't tell him that, so he says he doesn't remember. A lie. Final question. Fires brings in 2 pieces of evidence and places them on the table in front of them. A black mask, the same as the Komodo killers, and Oliver's bow. More specifically, the Green Arrow's compound bow from his more techie days. Though Fires doesn't know that. Both were found in Oliver's home. Do these belong to you? Oliver can't tell the truth without outing himself as Green Arrow, so he doubles down and says no. The polygraph spikes. Another lie. Fires now has motive, means, and opportunity. All he needs to formally charge Oliver Queen with murder. Now, normally this kind of trial would take months, even years, and a polygraph wouldn't be admissible in court. But with how high profile this murder was, the city is looking for someone to blame, and fast. But Oliver, despite everything, still trusts the system. He tells Dinah, his lawyers, everybody, that he has faith. Faith that the jury of his peers would see that this is clearly a setup, that the mask was planted by somebody, that the good Oliver has done shows his true character, that he is not a murderer. The jury deliberates, and they find him guilty. In 2007, Warner Brothers began development on Green Arrow, Escape from Supermax, with a screenplay written by David Goyer and Justin Marks. The script has been online for years now. It follows Green Arrow after his secret identity is exposed and he's framed for assassinating a politician, and he's sentenced to Belle Reve Penitentiary, where he has to survive against various supervillains that he himself put away. It's a concept that I've always been fascinated by, not just because it's Green Arrow, although that's a big part of it, but also because the timing of it. Supermax would have released nearly right alongside Marvel's first Iron Man movie in 2008, and he could have been the start to a greater DC universe at nearly the exact same time. Ironically, also starring a billionaire with a goatee who undergoes something traumatic and decides to become a superhero because of it. It ended up getting canned, with a lot of the ideas reworked into Suicide Squad, which then led to The Suicide Squad, which then led to, oh hey, look at that. I'm not going to just be copying that original script here. Again, that would be very boring, but I still think there's a really interesting story with Oliver being forced to survive not just an island, but the prison industrial complex. It's something that even Arrow did with its 7th season that I really enjoyed. Now that the DCU is tackling salvation in the future, using it as an allegory for the current administration and the treatment of immigrants through ICE, that might mean they're taking a lot of ideas from Supermax and giving it to that storyline. And honestly, Green Arrow would be really cool in Salvation, I'm not gonna lie, like trying to survive, like it's kind of like an island, you know? But I don't know what's going on with all that, so I'm just going to make it a regular prison if that's cool. The state wastes no time in throwing Oliver Queen into prison. He's shipped off to Lian-Yu Penitentiary, a maximum security facility off the coast of Star City. His mugshot is photographed, they take his fingerprints, swab his DNA, shackles are slapped onto his wrists and ankles. He's stripped and searched, sprayed down with a hose. His clothes, his wedding ring is thrown in the garbage in exchange for a stiff, musty orange jumpsuit. For the rest of his life, Oliver Queen can no longer vote in an election. He can no longer purchase a firearm, no longer run for public office, office. That is, if he ever steps foot outside these prison walls ever again. Oliver isn't a human here. He's a number. Inmate number 4173. He's pushed along the halls by a guard where he sees the other inmates in their cells. Crime lords, murderers, supervillains. Many of them the Green Arrow put in here himself. But also people who are scared, who are just doing what they can to survive. He's thrown into his cell and the door slams behind him. That's when Oliver hears a voice. You've gotta be kidding me. It's from his cellmate in the top bunk. Just my luck. Of course they paired me up with you. Oliver squints, barely able to make out a face in the darkness. Holy shit. Roy? Roy Harper first appeared in More Fun Comics number 73 by Mort Weisinger and George Papp from 1941. The same issue that Green Arrow himself debuted in. He's one of the earliest characters at DC, losing to Dick Grayson's Robin by only a year, which means he's a character with an equal level of history and legacy. Speedy is just as important to Green Arrow as Robin is to Batman, maybe even more. He's kind of this fascinating blend of both Dick Grayson's Golden Age heritage with the sort of darker tragedy that Jason Todd has, which is what makes him such a great colleague to the both of them in either the Titans or the Outlaws. Roy Harper is the definition of a fighter. He has been through hell and back, addiction, losing his daughter, losing his arm, watching his life get torn apart over and over again, and yet he still keeps coming back to his family and the people that he loves, all the more stronger because of it. Also, I gotta clear this up really quick. He's named Speedy because he could shoot arrows faster than Oliver. And Kid Flash didn't show up for like 18 years, so you can stop asking about it. We get a flashback to 5 years earlier, during Oliver's first year as Green Arrow. He leaps across rooftops and stops a couple of muggers. One of them gets the drop on him and pins him to the ground, but something flies through the air and hits the mugger in the head, knocking him unconscious. A red arrow. And we see a young boy, no older than 14, holding a bow and arrow with a red uniform. We learn that Roy Harper used to be Oliver's partner, right when he came back from the island. He stumbled upon Roy at a community archery event, who was trying to earn money after bouncing around foster systems. The kid was a crack shot with a bow, so Oliver took him under his wing, trained him, and gave him the nickname Speedy. But things didn't work out and they went their separate ways after only a year in the field. Roy went to live with some of his sidekick buddies and the rest was history. At first, Oliver is excited to see Roy. What are the chances they'd end up as cellmates? Maybe this won't be so bad after all. He'll need all the allies he can get to clear his name. But Roy gives him the cold shoulder. It's like he's got some kind of grudge. Roy says that the whole world sees Oliver Queen as a hero, as the savior of Star City. But he knows the kind of person that he really is. And he doesn't care whether or not he's innocent. Roy is glad Oliver's locked up. The next day, Oliver makes a call to Dinah, who picks up while she's out in the field fighting a bunch of bad guys. The call is being monitored, so they have to speak in code, but she tells him that she's been working on her own time to find evidence about who framed Oliver. Anything to bring the case back to trial, but she's been coming up short, even with the help of Oracle and the Birds of Prey. I don't want to completely sideline Black Canary in the story, despite her physically not really, being there. So instead, I want to cut between Oliver and Roy's time in prison with Dinah working with the Birds of Prey to help clear his name and uncover the conspiracy. Because the Birds of Prey are so fucking cool, and I really hope that wasn't the last time we see them in the movies because, oh, they're so sick. I love them so much. The murder of the CEO sparked a whole debate about whether or not this Robin Hood initiative is even working. Oliver says that that's ridiculous. Of course it's helping. Just because of one crazy murder doesn't mean the whole city's crazy. And Dinah says she doesn't disagree, but this was Simon LaCroix we're talking about, the #1 head of arms manufacturing in the country. This isn't being treated like just any other murder. The new Komodo CEO, named Prosper Meniere, is proposing to take all Robin Hood funds and put it into a private militia, enacting effectively martial law to get the city under control. And city council is starting to agree. Oliver set up Robin Hood so that couldn't happen, but if it gets a majority vote, they could force his hand. And without him to speak up for himself, public opinion keeps on swaying every day. Oliver figures that there's only one thing he can do right now while he tries to clear his name, and that's do what he does best: survive. We see him live amongst the supervillains and criminals, some of which he put away himself. We see characters like Bronze Tiger, William Talkman the Clock King, even a couple freaks from Gotham that couldn't fit in Arkham, all with a social hierarchy and rules that Oliver has to navigate. There's also this weird quiet guy sitting on a bench at the other side of the yard, constantly staring at Oliver, murmuring to himself. But the one he really has to watch out for is Danny Brickwell, but everyone just calls him Brick. A 7-foot-tall metahuman with skin made out of concrete, with a reputation of cracking people's skulls over nothing. The Green Arrow put him in here after he busted up a drug ring. Out of everybody in this place, he runs the show. Oliver, despite knowing full well that he should specifically avoid the big guy made out of rock, accidentally gets on Brick's bad side. Brick recognizes Oliver Queen as the billionaire philanthropist and wants him to do a little bit of philanthropy for him. Oliver tries to say, I guess someone hasn't been watching the news lately, but Brick doesn't want to hear it. He tells Oliver to pull some strings and transfer $100,000 into an offshore account by tomorrow, or else. That night, Oliver tries to get through more to Roy, asking what he did to get locked up, and hell, why he's so pissed off all the time. That's when Roy snaps. We learn that what Oliver thought was a mutual decision to go separate ways was actually Roy getting dropped overnight with no warning and nowhere to go. He abandoned Roy. Oliver took in this kid, promised him a life, and then just left him on the street when he got bored with him. Sure, the Titans let him couch surf for a little bit, but he couldn't stand being a burden, so he went to make it on his own. He started living on the street, fell into to the wrong crowd, kids who were hurting like him and coping however they could. They showed him how to numb the loneliness. And for a time, it worked. It felt like the only thing that could stop him from hurting was the needle. But then he needed it more and more, until eventually, it wasn't much of a choice. One of the most iconic and influential stories for Green Arrow, and especially Roy Harper, was Green Lantern Green Arrow number 85 to 86 by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, with a storyline titled Snowbirds Don't Fly. It followed Oliver after being attacked by some kids on the street with a crossbow. He realizes that they were using his own arrows. He worries that Roy had been captured, and admits that he hasn't been paying much attention to his ward lately. He just went on this cross-country road trip with Hal and essentially abandoned the kid. He starts to investigate with Green Lantern and discovers Roy caught up in a small-time drug ring. At first, Oliver assumes Roy is undercover to take the ring down, but soon learns that he himself is using, and due to his loneliness and Oliver's neglect, Roy became addicted to heroin. At first, Oliver is angry with Roy, lashing out at him, blaming him, but he eventually realizes that it's more complicated than that. This was an incredibly progressive concept for the world of comics, especially for 1971. It wasn't just your usual Superman says don't do drugs kind of PSA. It was empathetic to people struggling with substance abuse issues. It showed addiction in a real and personal way, in the real-life systems that fail people and cause them to turn to drugs. There are some things that haven't aged well that even O'Neil later said he regretted, namely with Oliver's reaction to Roy, and Roy Harper is by no means defined by this addiction. He's since grown into one of the most nuanced and interesting characters in all of DC. But this was a watershed moment for both him and Oliver as characters, and also the comics industry as a whole. And I think it's a way that we can dive deeper into the prison industrial complex and those institutions that Oliver is questioning, with Roy being basically the personification of not just Oliver's failings, but also the systematic failings that have hurt so many people like him. Roy tells Oliver that he eventually clawed his way out of it, suffering and shaking on the cold streets alone, with no parents, no safety net, and especially no Oliver Queen to help him. Roy Harper was completely clean for 3 weeks. He was going to get rid of his stash when a cop stopped him on the street and arrested him on the day of his 18th birthday. He was tried as an adult. The cop made up a story that he had intent to distribute, and Roy was sentenced to 10 years for it. Oliver sits for a moment in silence. He truly, genuinely had no idea. To him, it was just a falling out, like a business deal that didn't work out. If he were any younger, he would snap back at Roy, reprimand him for complaining and blaming others for his problems, that he should have reached out and asked for help. But after everything that's happened in the past 2 years, he knows it's not that simple. That voice dies in his throat. Oliver realizes that the kid is right. It is his fault. He lays in his bunk and stares up at the cold, concrete ceiling. I'm sorry, son. The next day, Brick makes do on his promise. Oliver again tries to explain that Brick probably has more money than him right now, but Brick interrupts him by kicking his ass. Their fight leads to a whole riot in the yard and Brick getting subdued by the guards. In the chaos and confusion, Oliver manages to break away and hide in the prison bathrooms. That's when he hears something. Drip, drop. Oh, come on. The man from the yard, now wearing a cloth over his face, lunges at Oliver, holding a small makeshift knife. Slash, slice, thwack. Oliver is pinned against the wall, barely able to hold him off. There's a whistle and a broom handle flies through the air and hits Onomatopoeia in the head, knocking him out cold. Oliver looks over to see Roy Harper, having saved his life. Roy helps Oliver get back to their cell, saying that he still hates him, but at the very least, he doesn't want to see him get chopped to bits. To which Oliver is touched. Oliver puts his hand on Roy's shoulder. He says that he knows how much he ruined his life, intentionally or not, and that's why he's going to make sure that they get out of here together. I am so glad you say that, gentlemen. A voice cuts through the hallway, cold, unmistakable, someone so menacing, so unmovable, like nothing in the world can break her. I guess that's why they call her the Wall. And Amanda Waller approaches their cell, because I have an offer you cannot refuse. Now, technically in the DCU, Task Force X has been abandoned in favor of Task Force M, the Creature Commandos, but I think if you're doing a DC story that's discussing systematic failures and the flaws of the prison industrial complex, there's no better vehicle for that than the Suicide Squad. I've always really wanted to see Green Arrow on the squad. I'm sorry, I think it could be so cool with like the socialist superhero being forced and blackmailed to work for the government. I think they kind of did that in Smallville, but I don't think they went that far. It's not too far off from what the original Supermax script did. That story had Amanda Waller as the prison warden, and every inmate implanted with shot collars to torture them with. But I also think that the Suicide Squad are a very understandable and already established avenue to explore the real-life forced prison labor that exists in America. As long as someone is incarcerated, no matter for what crime, they can legally be forced into labor. They get paid, but it's often for pennies an hour and punished if they refuse. Nearly every year, Los Angeles County is ravaged by disastrous wildfires, and over 1,000 of the firefighters who help put them out are inmates of California state prisons who volunteer for the job. They get paid a couple bucks a day day and then get thrown back in jail. They can't even become professional firefighters after they complete their sentences because of their criminal records. And so I would want to touch on that, explore how Oliver learning that changes his entire view of the system around him. Amanda Waller recruits Oliver and Roy into Task Force X, which has still been operating in deep secret since Cordell Maltese. She says if they do a couple missions for her, she can make sure to get time off their prison sentence and let them walk away free men, innocent or otherwise. She says she knows all about Oliver's little side activities as the Green Arrow, and if Oliver doesn't do what she says, she'll make sure the whole world knows it too. But if he's a good dog, she'll keep his identity a secret even from his own team. Besides, Waller likes having a bona fide Justice League member under her thumb, even if it is just the guy with the bow. The team consists of Roy Harper, Jade Nguyen, codenamed Cheshire, Master Assassin, Danny Brickwell, who's Oliver's had the pleasure of meeting already, Jarvis Tetch, the Mad Hatter, Master Hypnotist, Bet Sansucci, Plastique, able to turn anything into an explosive, and Green Arrow, equipped with a newly masked costume and assortment of different arrows to fit his needs. They're led by Special Agent Fires, who arrested Oliver at his wedding. We learn that this isn't Roy's first time on the squad. He has a whole new suit and even code name now. No longer speedy and not limiting himself to just a bow and arrow anymore. Now he has a whole arsenal at his disposal. He already has a bit of a budding relationship with Cheshire. Oliver is dragged into an operating room and he's injected with a remotely controlled bomb in his neck. The Suicide Squad classic. Despite the blackmail that Waller already has on him and his position as a full-time Justice League member, she still wants to have the last laugh just in case he decides to double-cross her. Fires briefs the squad about their mission. There's been a terrorist cell that's been growing ranks in the heart of Star City, called Eden Corps, an eco-terrorist group who's taken residence in the headquarters of Horton Chemical. Horton is wrapped in a scandal of illegal toxic waste dumping and poisoning lower-income neighborhoods, and Oliver snarks that maybe those guys aren't the quote-unquote terrorists of this story. The job is to infiltrate the skyscraper, plant a briefcase of false evidence to pin on the leader, and get out of the building unnoticed. As always, if any of them are to be captured or killed, the US government will claim no knowledge of their involvement. They go on the mission, and as expected, it doesn't go according to plan. In the chaos, Green Arrow is able to sneak away to his nearby phone in his side office, and he dials the only number he can think of. The phone rings twice, and on the other end of the line, Oliver hears the most beautiful voice in the world, Dinah Lance. Oliver tells her that he's on a mission, doing something that he's not proud of, the kind of thing he swore to never do. It's suicide, literal suicide. But if it's what it'll take to bring him back home, it's what he has to do. Dinah tries to talk him out of it, that they're so close to clearing his name, like that corrupted security footage. Oracle's almost had it cracked, but she needs an access code for that specific camera firmware, something that she can't hack into. The camera came from Weisinger Security. In the morning, that's when Oliver looks out the window across the street, where he sees a skyscraper labeled Weisinger Security Systems, and he asks her to give him 10 minutes. 10? That's 5 more than... Alright, well, gotta go. Oliver uses a zipline arrow to make his way across the alleyway, through the window of the security office. He breaks into the server room, and uses a good old USB hacking arrow to crack the firewall. He finds the access code, sends it off to the birds. That's when an arrow just barely misses his head. Oliver spins around and readies his bow before seeing the attacker. Jesus Christ, Roy, what are you doing? It's me. Arsenal shakes his head, a little dazed. He says sorry, he didn't realize. He doesn't even know how he got over here. But they have to get back to the squad before Waller has their heads. The rest of the mission goes off without a hitch. They're able to break into the main office, and Plastique hands Oliver the briefcase to plant. He puts the package on the table, which trips the main security alarm. A big firefight breaks out, and Brick manages to take a heavy hit to his stomach from an armor-piercing round. Oliver manages to get a hold of him and drag him across the battlefield to a piece of cover, and Brick can't help but chuckle. He used to think the Green Arrow was some asshole narc playing superhero, but I guess he isn't such a bad guy after all. He lies there, bleeding out from the bullet wound. Before I go, man, can you do me a favor? Let me settle a bet. Yeah, anything. Be honest with me. Under that mask, are you Bruce Wayne? No, I'm not Bruce Wayne. Ah, shit, there goes my $50. But Brick says something else. He tells Green Arrow that he wasn't put on this team just for muscle. You see, he had special orders to kill Green Arrow specifically and make it look like an accident. Orders from the bomb in Brick's neck detonates, and Green Arrow is covered in pink and red. Arsenal grabs a hold of Oliver and drags him away from Brick's corpse as they make their escape. Oliver sits in the Lian visitation room. After what was a quote successful mission, he was allowed special privileges, and Dinah Lance sits in front of him through the glass. As much as Oliver wants to be happy to see his wife for the first time face to face since their wedding, hell of a honeymoon, he can't be. What happened with Danny is still sticking with him. He used to see Brick as nothing more than just a crime lord, a violent animal who deserved to be put behind bars. But now Oliver doesn't know what to think. All he knows is that after spending this time in here and seeing what it does to people, it doesn't look much like justice. Dinah places her hand against the glass and tries to comfort Oliver. She tells him that she has some good news for a change. Oracle was able to repair the security footage of the murder, and it clearly shows the person who killed LaCroix, enough to prove Oliver's innocence. But the file had a backdoor virus in it. Once it was decorrupted, the video was automatically sent to every newsroom and police precinct in Star City. Oliver says that that's a good thing, right? If it clears his name, then everybody should see it before it gets covered up. Dinah tries to explain, but before she can, a TV mounted in the corner suddenly switches to breaking news, revealing the newly recovered, never before seen footage of Simon LaCroix's murder. The video shows the killing, same as before, with the Komodo killer firing 3 arrows into the CEO's chest. But instead of being corrupted, the footage continues. It shows him planting the false evidence of Oliver's ID, hacking the security camera to corrupt the footage. And on his way out of the room, Komodo takes off his mask in clear view of the camera, and we see his face. To Oliver, the face is all too familiar. One that will haunt him for years, that he's failed one too many times. Roy Harper. Oliver rushes back to his cell, where he sees Roy getting dragged off by a pair of guards. He tries to step in and help, but a baton thwacks him across the jaw. As Roy's being dragged away, he's calling out to Oliver, saying that he didn't do this, and for Ollie to please believe him. Oliver tries to push through the guards again, only to be beaten back once more. Through the pain, he forces himself upright enough for Roy to hear him. Oliver calls out to him that he knows he's innocent. He's going to get to the bottom of this and make sure that he's okay. I promise you, I will not abandon you again. The guard whacks the baton one more time into his skull before leaving Oliver on the ground, and Roy is taken away down the hall. It's a real shame. He's a good kid, all things considered. Oliver slowly stands up, his legs shaking, his ears ringing, to see Eddie Fires leaning on the bars of his cell. But he might have a way out of this. The right people could make the whole thing disappear. Fires tells Oliver that he can pull some strings, free Roy, acquit him of everything. Only if Oliver Queen just does one teeny tiny little job for him. Off the books. He'll even take Waller's bomb out of his neck, free of charge. I'd hate to see the poor kid get left behind again. What do you think about that, Arrow? The job is simple. Green Arrow doesn't even need to suit up for it. All Fires needs is for Oliver Queen to walk right into his old home turf, Queen Industries, go on up to the top floor and place a USB drive in the main computer. He already has clearance to get in. Easy peasy, nobody gets hurt. Oliver asks what it is he's really doing, and Fires says it's nothing too terrible. Just skimming a bit off the top of that Robin Hood money. Barely even a drop. Nobody will even notice. And with no other choice, Oliver agrees. He's escorted out of the prison, given back his civilian clothes, and is transported to Queen Industries headquarters. As he enters, he sees someone across the street. Of course he sees her. She would stand out among a million faces. Dinah. She sees him too from across the way, her husband, broken and bloody. He tries to go to her, but he hears Fires in his earpiece to tell him to stop. If he takes another step, tries to contact Dinah in any way, he'll make sure Harper gets the chair. Dinah calls out his name, and Oliver has no choice but to shake his head and leave her. He makes his way through Queen Industries, using his blood-stained ID card from the crime scene. But something isn't right. This isn't the company he left 2 years ago. Shipments are coming in, things that Oliver would never in a million years have approved. Military tech from Komodo Industries, guns, armor, drones, riot gear, everything you would need to make a private militia. But Oliver can't stop now for Roy's sake. He makes his way up the elevator back up to his old office, now rebuilt with no hidden lair. He takes the USB drive and places it into the computer without a hitch. Oliver suits up and meets with Fires on the roof of Queen Industries. Thunder cracks in the sky and it begins to rain. He tells Fires that the job is done. He did exactly what he wanted. And Fires signals for a helicopter to arrive, dropping off Roy Harper. He's handcuffed and blindfolded, but otherwise unharmed. Oliver helps Roy up, takes off his blindfold, and starts to take him back home. Fires says that above all else, he's a man of his word. And speaking of words, Harper, he snaps his fingers, Snowbird. Roy's body goes limp before suddenly jolting back up, but something's different about him. His eyes are empty, his pupils dilated. It's like his mind isn't all the way there. Without a word, Roy grabs Oliver and pins him down to the ground. Fires says Oliver can thank his fellow squad member, Mad Hatter, for that. A little bit of hypnotism and punks like Harper will crumble in your hand like paper. Even kill if you ask them to, like with the CEO. Oliver tries to resist, but Roy's grip gets tighter and tighter. Fires, you son of a bitch, out. But Fires stops him. Hang on, you're gonna miss the light show. Oliver says, light show? What light show? Off in the distance, we hear a loud, thunderous boom. Fire and smoke erupts from the Star City skyline, a massive explosion at Horton Chemical. Screens and billboards all around them start to project the news, live reporting on the attack, and that the police have found the perpetrator, the Green Arrow, with security footage of him leaving a mysterious package at Horton Chemical just hours ago, along with phone records of him saying that he's doing something that he's not proud of, the kind of thing he swore to never do. There was no Eden Corps, no terrorist group. That evidence that Arrow dropped off with the Suicide Squad, Fires had plastique handed off to him, but not before charging it with enough explosive firepower to level a whole city block. The city council has convened an emergency vote as they speak, whether or not to transfer all Robin Hood funds to Komodo Industries and give their soldiers emergency powers. And Fires says it'll be a tough vote, if only someone made a very compelling case for them. The news anchor stops and says that they're just now receiving a video message from moments ago. My name is Oliver Jonas Queen. 2 years ago, I created the Robin Hood Initiative in an effort to help save this city, and I'm here today to tell you it was a mistake. When Oliver plugged in that USB drive, it flashed a string of letters and numbers into his eyes, also the work of Mad Hatter. Turned his mind into a blank slate, making him read this script into a camera with zero memory of it. The video of Oliver continues. He says that maniacs like Green Arrow have gone too far, so he is in full support of the Robin Hood funds being transferred to Komodo Industries to make the city safe again. The votes are counted, and it's unanimous. Within minutes, Prosper Meunier of Komodo Industries dispatches his soldiers all across the city to find the Green Arrow. They've already located the Black Canary, a known conspirator, and he's mobilizing defense troops to apprehend her now. We see Dinah on the ground level outside Queen Industries, getting cornered by dozens and dozens of armored enforcers. Oliver Queen, the socialist hero of Star City, who saved the world by adding free buses and universal basic income. That Robin Hood fund was just sitting there, going to waste. All that money down the drain. Fires knew that it wasn't gonna last, so he took action to benefit himself. He's been nudging this along for months. All the puzzle pieces, every tiny little detail, tricking even Amanda Waller to do what he wanted. Brick was supposed to take care of him and tie up the loose ends before he went soft, literally. But Fires says honestly he likes this plan better, because people don't need affordable housing or groceries. What they really need most of all is a villain, and Oliver played the part perfectly. One Green Arrow story that I never see get any recognition is issues 34 to 39 of Mike Grell's run from 1990, also known as the Black Arrow Saga. The arc is kind of hard to find. It isn't available in the DC Infinite app, but it follows Oliver as he gets framed for a terrorist attack by Eddie Fires. He goes on the run, shaves his head, and when he's eventually cleared as innocent, he sits in a room with the CIA, the FBI, and the DEA agents who accused him in the first place. They try to pass it off as, oops, my bad, no harm done, but Oliver is clearly disturbed by the entire world still believing him to be a traitor, with the state nearly assassinating him via sniper, even after he was proven innocent. It was a story that was the nail in the coffin for Oliver's trust not only in the justice system, but also the US government as an institution, that things might be too broken and too corrupt to be fixed, and that the only thing he can do is survive. Fires makes his way back to the helicopter and starts to take off. Oh, by the way, Harper, kill him. As the helicopter flies away, Oliver's just barely able to free himself from Roy's grip in time to not have his neck snapped. The two of them fight on the rooftop, Oliver doing his best to only defend himself and not hurt him. The hypnosis is pulling from all of Roy's anger and rage, weaponizing it. And meanwhile, on the ground, we see Dinah fending off the enforcers. Oliver tries to break through to his former protege. With every swing, every arrow fired, Roy screams about how he abandoned him, how everybody always abandons him, and he's tired of being hurt, tired of being alone. Oliver stops, and he lets his bow fall from his hand. He wraps his arms around Roy. You're not alone, son. Roy thrashes and slams his fists into Oliver, trying to break free, but Oliver doesn't budge. I should have helped you carry that weight. He holds him tighter and tighter. You are the strongest person I have ever met. I abandoned you once before, and I will not leave you again. We see Dinah still on the ground, still fighting. Nearly 40 officers lay around her, unconscious. There's only one left, but she is exhausted. Her bones are broken, her knuckles bloody, her voice is completely shot. One more cry and it could burst her lungs and kill her. The last officer raises his gun at her and she takes a deep breath before an arrow flies through the air, slamming into his head and knocking him out cold. The boxing glove. Dinah looks up to the sky through the thunder and the rain to see a pair of silhouettes at the top of Queen Industries Tower. Green and red arrow. Star City is in ruins. Militia roam the streets, primarily lower income neighborhoods, mandatory curfews, random searches, dragging people out of their homes, turning neighbors against each other, and locking up anyone who doesn't comply in makeshift detention centers, using the actions of Green Arrow as an excuse that some discomfort is necessary to bring back law and order. Fires couldn't have done this alone. This kind of stunt takes planning, it takes patience, it takes money, and most importantly, it takes hatred. There's only one person in the world who could have that much hate. We cut to Lian Yu Penitentiary. We see a lavish, luxurious cell with expensive furniture, silk sheets, a fully stocked bar, windows that overlook the ocean. More of a vacation than a punishment. But I guess that's the kind of treatment you get when you're rich. Ah, Mr. Queen. Can I get you a drink? Green Arrow emerges from the shadows. It was staring him in the face the whole time. Prosper Meunier, the new CEO of Komodo Industries? Bullshit. Prosper Meunier was a French doctor in the 1800s who discovered a disorder of the inner ear, coined Meunier's disease. Its symptoms include hearing loss, tinnitus, and vertigo. Werner Zeidel sits in his luxurious cell and laughs. Oliver tells Zeidel that he followed the money. Shell companies, campaign donations, private security contracts, every road led right to this room. After 2 years of planning, Vertigo was the one who framed Oliver using his old protege, pulled strings with his connections at Komodo Industries, Amanda Waller, even City Council, sparking a little bit of manufactured crisis, who made sure the right evidence disappeared, the right footage reappeared, that the right people were in power when the city panicked, and employed Special Agent Eddie Fires, the trigger man who pulled it all off. Vertigo didn't need to be a free man to destroy the city. He could do it all from the comfort of his own private suite. Oliver says he will do whatever it takes to stop him. Vertigo laughs. There's the Green Arrow naivety that he's grown so fond of. There's nothing you can do, Queen. I own the cops, the judges, city council, the military, you name it. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it's supposed to. This goes so much higher than you realize. Green Arrow's eyes grow cold. Did you really think that washing up on that island was just an accident? Everything that you think you understand, you, your wife, that junkie you call your ward, the sooner you realize that, the sooner Oliver fires an arrow at Vertigo, killing him instantly. You're right. There's no fixing things. We cut to a bus station in San Francisco, California. A teenage boy with a worn backpack steps up to the ticket window. He slides a few crumpled bills under the glass to the attendant. 1 ticket to Star City? Star City? Jesus Christ, kid, are you crazy? The place is a shit show right now. You'd be better off going to Gotham. Yeah, probably. The attendant says it's his funeral. He just needs to see some ID. So what are you doing headed to Star City, Connor? I've got some family business to take care of. Well, I guess if I've gotten this far... One of the most iconic and influential stories in Green Arrow's history was The Longbow Hunters, a 3-issue miniseries written and illustrated by Mike Grell with colors by Julia Lackman from 1987. It follows an older Oliver Queen as he moves to Seattle with Dinah, and he reflects on his life as a superhero. At the same time, a younger, more skilled archer named Shadow comes into the picture, forcing Oliver to reconcile with not only his age and his tiring body, but also the changing world of the 80s. Things don't make as much sense as they used to. Everything is more complicated, more gray, and it reflected in the tone of the book. The book is pretty violent, so I can't really show a ton of this, but it ends with Oliver taking a life in order to save Dinah. Up to this point, Green Arrow did not kill people, especially intentionally. The only other time was by accident during the O'Neill and Adams run. And this brutal killing marked a change in the direction for the character, and was the beginning of Grell's more cynical take. That initial murder was so traumatizing for Oliver that DC had to kill him off and bring him back with his memories erased to make him more fun and lighthearted again. And it's that cynicism that I really want to challenge with the third and final movie. The first 2 movies were about diving deeper and deeper into the systemic problems of the world. Wealth, prisons, police, and I think it'll be understandable to keep going deeper and make the third movie go a step further, make it darker, more cynical, more fucked up, really put this dude through the ringer. But I don't want to do that. A very easy trap to fall into, especially when you're learning more about the problems of the world, is nihilism. We take a look at the world around us, at all the horrifying things that we witness on a daily basis, and the people in power that choose to do nothing about it. And it's easy to say that nothing matters, that nothing can ever change, that there's no hope. But I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that. But what is the solution? What can you or me do to heal a broken world that tells us it can't be fixed? What do we focus on? What kind of hope can we grab onto so we don't fall into that pit of despair? This is my pitch for Green Arrow, The Longbow Hunters. We begin 18 years ago at the Queen family manor. A 17-year-old Oliver Queen is teaching his then girlfriend about archery. Her name is Sandra, his first love. They met at an anti-war protest she was organizing that Oliver accidentally stumbled into. And today is their 3-month anniversary. He has her close her eyes and he gives her a necklace, a jade peace symbol, vintage from the 1970s. She says she loves it, even if it is a bit on the nose. It's inscribed with her middle name, Moonday, which was also his nickname for her. We hear a voice. Oliver. It's his father, Robert Queen. He pulls his son aside and has a little chat with him. Apparently, Oliver just dropped out of Metropolis University School of Business. Oliver says that he didn't want to go to business school. It's not like he needs a job anyway. And Robert sighs. He tells Oliver that their family's been going to that school for generations. So he's going to end things with that little girlfriend of his, go to the dean and beg to be let back in. But more importantly, the Queens do not quit. No matter what, it's not in their blood. We have a duty, you and me. You have to be able to kill for what you believe in, even die if you have to. We see the image of Count Vertigo. That's the Queen family way. Oliver Queen is a character who, for decades, has been defined by his bullheadedness and also by his self-destruction. So many times throughout the character's history, he will intentionally sabotage his own life just to prove a point or punish himself for his failures, even if it kills him. It's easily his greatest character flaw, which combined with those politics makes him such an interesting case study. And I want to take that and really dive deep into it. Where does that attitude come from? And what does that kind of person do when they've lost all sense of hope for the future? We cut to Star City today. For 3 years, it's been a fascist dream. Komodo's militia are becoming more dangerous, more radicalized, more brutal. Werner Zeidel's death just emboldened them even more. They've turned him into a martyr, painted his face on buildings, claiming him as a champion of free speech who was silenced too soon. Komodo Industries is still being run by the fictional Prosper Meniere, a puppet controlled by the board to get away with whatever they want. The militia's even turned on their leader, Eddie Fire, stairs, stuck his head on a spike as a warning for all of Star City to see. There's a young girl walking down the street. She gets stopped by a pair of militia. They question her, push her around, antagonize her, trying to get a rise out of her. She tries to make a break for it, but they cut her off and start to detain her. That's when an arrow soars through the air and ricochets off the pavement into the militia's domes, taking them out. The girl looks at the arrow as it falls to the ground. The tip of it is covered in trash? She looks up to the fire escapes to see him. His beard is overgrown, his hood tattered, his breath stinks. Oh my god, his breath stinks. But it's unmistakably him, the Green Arrow. After knocking out the militia, Oliver starts to leave, but the girl stops him. We see that Oliver has a nasty cut in his stomach from another fight. She says she wants to repay him somehow. Her place isn't very far from here. She can patch him up at the very least, offer him some food, maybe a shower, because he really needs one. Oliver gruffly asks the girl's name, and she says it's Mia. Mia Dearden. Mia Dearden first appeared in Green Arrow #2 by Kevin Smith and Phil Hester from 2001 during the Quiver storyline. She was a runaway in Star City, a child being exploited on the streets, before Oliver took her under his wing and eventually trained her as the new Speedy. I'd say that she's one of the more underrated members of the Arrow family. CW Arrow didn't know what to do with her, so they gave her name to a bunch of people. Like there's Thea Dearden Queen, and then there's Mia Smoke Queen, Felicity and his daughter. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. It's weird. But she's seriously such a great character. Despite her very tragic backstory, Mia brought a lot of levity and fun to the Arrow family as a sort of wisecracking teenage girl. Similar to someone like Stephanie Brown, actually. She and Oliver had a kind of father-daughter relationship. The first time that he could actually take somebody in who needed him and do it right. There's a really funny bit where Oliver discovers a crossbow in her room and is treated with like the same level of weight as if he found a pack of cigarettes. This whole trilogy has a lot of moving pieces and a lot of different characters, so I realistically can't give Mia a huge role here, but I want to include her as much as possible, not just because she's a great character, but also because she helps to show really how far the city has fallen and how far Oliver has fallen. As Mia patches him up, we learn that for the past 3 years, Green Arrow has been living on the streets, picking fights with the militia every single night, using cans, bottles, whatever garbage he can get his hands on as makeshift arrowheads. Killing Vertigo changed something in Oliver. It replays over and over in his head, not because he's mourning for a Nazi, but when he finally put an arrow in him, it wasn't justice, it wasn't desperation, it was just violence. A kill of an unarmed man in a concrete box out of rage that didn't even fix anything. And he starts to think that that's all he's good for. Senseless violence. He left Roy with Dinah where he knew he'd be safe. And he's doing this fight alone because he knows if there's anyone else alongside him, they'll just get caught in the crossfire. He's become a bit of a revolutionary symbol for the people of Star City. But he doesn't care about that. He doesn't believe that he can fix anything anymore. He's lost all hope of that. But he will knock as many piggy heads as he can before they put a bullet in him. That's what it's always been about. Survival. The Queen family way. We cut to a firefight. Komodo's militia are lighting up the street with bullets, targeting 2 people. Roy Harper, the Red Arrow, and a young boy named Connor. Connor Hawke first appeared in Green Arrow #0 by Kelly Puckett and Jim Aparo in 1994. Why is it #0? I don't know. I don't know. He's the biological son of Oliver Queen, a Green Arrow fanboy raised and trained in combat by ashram monks, and he took over the mantle of Green Arrow after Oliver's death. He even appeared 12 years before Damian Wayne did. How's that for a Batman ripoff, huh? Haha, let's check the scoreboard. Oh, never mind. But where someone like Damian is cocky, egotistical, and a little violent, Connor is the opposite. Despite being one of the best martial artists in the whole DC universe, literally top 5, and using a bow and arrow, a weapon designed for killing and hunting, Connor is more or less a pacifist. He will get into a fight if he has to, but it is always a last resort, even more so than someone like Wonder Woman. That pacifism has kind of gotten sidelined a lot lately to showcase how cool of a fighter he is, which don't get me wrong, he's very cool, but I think it's a big part of what makes him so interesting. It made him like the antithesis of every other 90s character in comics at the time. In an era full of grim, dark anti-heroes with big guns and big muscles and even bigger pouches, Connor Hawke was calm and level-headed, doing whatever he could to avoid violence whenever possible. It was also a huge contrast to his father's brash and stubborn personality. And that's what I want to explore here in this story. If Oliver is going down this path of nihilism and hopelessness, too stubborn and self-destructive to see how much he's hurting the people around him, how does he react to his non-violent son who comes back into his life and tries to pull him out of it? The two of them try to fight back against the militia, but their firepower is too much. So they make a break for it, running down city streets and alleyways, trying to escape from the militia's forces. While they run, we see that Roy is on comms with Dinah Lance. The two of them have been spearheading a revolution against the militia, where Oliver is just fighting blindly by himself, taking out whoever crosses his line of sight. Their work is more intentional, strategic, and is what led them to Connor in the first place. We don't know who this kid is yet or why he's here, but his safety is Roy and Dinah's #1 priority right now. Roy says that there's too many of them, they're gonna have to find a place to lay low for a bit, at least until the heat dies down. But Dinah tells him that the nearest safe house isn't for miles, with militia in every possible direction. That's when on the ground, Roy notices something. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's old, beat up, covered in garbage, but he'd recognize it anywhere. A green arrow. There's a small trail of blood nearby, leading out to the alleyway and into a nearby apartment building. Roy tells Connor that he has an idea. It's a stupid idea, but it's the only choice they have right now. We cut to a rooftop, where we see a woman. clad in black with a red dragon tattoo across her arm, an assassin named Shadow. She's watching Roy and Connor through a pair of binoculars as they make off towards Oliver's position. She speaks into a communicator in her ear. A voice on the other end of the line orders her to take the target out, but she says to be patient. A real hunter only attacks when her prey has nowhere left to run. The character of Shadow first appeared in the Longbow Hunters and became a recurring and important role for Mike Grell's Green Arrow run. She also made a comeback during the modern continuity as a member of the Outsiders. Grell's Shadow had not just a complicated relationship with Oliver, but also a deeply uncomfortable and graphic one. And that's something that I really don't want to explore here. So for this story, I'm going to be pulling more from how Lemire handled it. Instead of having a relationship with Oliver, the modern depiction of Shadow was in love with his father, Robert Queen, and they had a child together, Oliver's sister, Emiko. And I think that there's so much potential in introducing her and this character defined by violence and moral complexity at the same time as Connor, who believes in peace over anything else. Also, I promise I'm done introducing Archer characters now, but I guess that's why we're calling out Longbow Hunters, am I right, chat? Whatever. Mia finishes patching up Oliver when there's a knock at her door. He takes out his bow and has her find some place to hide. He opens the door to meet a fist slamming into his face. Roy Harper says that's for going off the grid for the past 3 years. Oliver holds his jaw, saying that he trusted Dinah to look after him better than he could. But Roy doesn't care. Oliver made a promise that he wouldn't abandon him. And look where we are now. Mia steps out of her hiding spot and Roy introduces himself as the Red Arrow. Before Oliver can make a crack about stealing his name, he notices the figure with him. And he asks who's the kid. Roy says that that's why he's here. This is Connor. He's important to the work that they're doing, the real work, not just busting militia heads waiting for a bullet in the brain. Oliver feels like he recognizes the kid somehow, but he can't quite put his finger on it. Militia are all over the place right now looking for Connor, and he needs Oliver to keep him safe for a bit, just for the night. Roy has to meet up with a supplier near the docks, but he'll be back in the morning to take him out of the city, to a safe house in Seattle. But for just one night. Can Roy please trust Oliver? Oliver tries to argue, saying that he's not playing babysitter. This isn't even his place. But Mia says it's all fine by her. She already has one stray on the couch, so what's one more? Besides, Roy's made up his mind. This is their only option, so Oliver reluctantly agrees. As Roy makes his way out, he looks back at Oliver, and he wraps his arms around him in a hug. I really am glad you're okay. Sorry for hitting you. It's all right, I deserved it. And you too, kid. You too. Oliver makes no attempt to small talk with Connor. He figures it's just the one night. Why would he waste time setting him up for disappointment? The morning comes and then night and still no sign of Roy. If Connor really is so important, why would he be late? That's when Oliver notices something. And without even thinking, he catches something flying through the window. An arrow heading straight for Connor's face. And on the rooftop across the street, he sees her. Shadow. The hunter attacks the apartment and Oliver does his best to hold her off, but he's not as young as he used to be. The two of them fight throughout the apartment and Shadow ends up holding an arrow to Mia's throat. She tells Oliver to surrender the boy and the girl won't get hurt. Oliver slowly puts his bow to the ground and his hands in the air. Mia slams a nearby lamp into Shadow, and before Shadow can react, Connor steps in, sweeping her to the ground in one clean, controlled movement. And the three of them make a break for it. As they make their way out of the apartment complex, Connor picks up Oliver's bow. He fires an arrow back at Shadow. It ricochets off the walls and floors before perfectly pinning Shadow to a wall by the strap of her quiver. Holy shit, nice shot, kid. It doesn't hold her for long, so Oliver tells Mia to get somewhere safe. She's not the target here, just getting caught in the crossfire. The shelter on 3rd Avenue is a good one, just ask for John Diggle. Mia nods and speeds down the street. Oliver asks Connor where exactly the safe house is in Seattle, because it looks like he's stuck playing babysitter after all. Hope you're a fan of chili at least. Oliver and Connor go on the run. With no word from Roy and Shadow hot in their trail, Oliver has no choice but to take Connor to the safe house in Seattle himself. And we get a glimpse at just how talented of a martial artist Connor is, despite being more or less a pacifist. Eventually, we learn exactly why Connor is so important to this mission. His mother, who he doesn't mention by name, used to work at accounting at Queen Industries. 3 years ago, when everything went down and the city went under, she set up a back door in the Robin Hood funding. When Robin Hood was set up, she had a fear something like this would happen. And so she set her account as the chief administrator, capable of shutting off funding entirely if ever necessary, and resetting everything back to square one. A hidden subroutine capable of cutting off the Komodo militia where it hurts the most, their wallets. If anybody else had access, they'd be able to undo all of her work. She locked the account behind a double encrypted password and never told a soul. But the militia thugs eventually found out, attacked her, put her in the hospital. She would have died if Connor and her didn't manage to get out of the city and go into witness protection. Together, she and Connor lived in a remote monastery with a small order of monks who taught Connor their philosophy and their fighting style. With how many resources a militia has, it was only a matter of time before they tracked the two of them down. Connor couldn't risk his mother getting hurt again, so he came back to Star City to end the militia once and for all. Before he left, his mother gave him the account password, making Connor the key to cutting off the war machine and bringing that money back to the people. And she gave him something so that he can always remember that above all else, peace is what matters. He reaches into his shirt and reveals a necklace. A jade peace symbol. Oliver recognizes it immediately. What did you say your mom's name was? Sandra. Sandra Hawk? Oliver puts all the pieces together. The timeline of when he last saw Sandra 18 years ago. He wants to tell Connor the truth about who he is, but he stops himself. Surely after so many years, Sandra must hate his guts, and he's already hurt so many people. He doesn't want to drag his son down to hell with him. Eventually, the two of them get out of the city and into Seattle, where they make it to the safe house. It's based out of an old greenhouse. Ugh, greenhouse. Good one, Roy. They approach the front door and they're greeted by Roy Harper. Roy wasn't able to make it there without the militia spotting him. By the time he got back, Mia's place was trashed and they were gone. The best move was to wait for them here. year. Oliver says that he's held up his end of the bargain and then some. And you know what? He wants to go give their leader a piece of his mind. Roy tries to tell him that maybe that's not the best idea, but Oliver barges through the base until he finds the person in command. Oh, of course it is. You know her, you love her, Dinah Laurel Lance. Dinah clocks Oliver from across the room immediately and makes her way toward him. Oliver braces himself to get slapped, or kicked, or punched, or Canary cried. But instead, nothing. Just a handshake. She thanks Oliver for bringing Connor all this way, acting like they were just friends, colleagues. Oliver asks what gives, and Dinah says that she had 3 years to get over this anger, and she decided a long time ago that she can't control what Oliver Queen does, and she's tired of the self-sabotage, the self-destruction. So if he doesn't want to be a part of her life anymore, then she won't be a part of his, which somehow hurts more than a canary cry ever could. Their operation is small, just a dozen or so people. Roy, Dinah, Sin, the birds, and a handful of others. But they've been making big progress. Dinah tells Oliver that they've been doing their own investigation about the militia, and it goes so much higher, so much deeper than just Queen or Komodo Industries. There exists a group made up of corporate executives from all around the globe, pulling strings, influencing events to maximize their profits. At least one of them sits in every major boardroom in the world, even Queen Industries. They call themselves the Ninth Circle. They keep their identities anonymous, wearing masks. They have reach all around the world, but Star City has been their guinea pig, a testing ground to see what they can get away with before rolling it out into other cities. Werner Zeidel was one of their top members before, and so was Eddie Fires. That's how they both knew so much and were able to pull so many strings. It's all connected. Everything from the past few years. The Suicide Squad, Oliver being framed, even the attack on Queen Industries. It all leads back to this. Oliver thinks back to what Vertigo said right before he killed him about the island. He always thought it was bullshit, some kind of mind game to get under his skin. He never once thought that he might have been telling the truth. And Dinah says that's not all. In all of their research, everything that they found about these guys, a name has kept coming up over and over again. He used a code name, but when you connect the dots, there's no doubt that it's him. Robert Queen, Oliver's father. The Ninth Circle first appeared in Green Arrow Rebirth by Ben Percy and Otto Schmidt from 2016. It's an organization made up of corrupt bankers and elites from all around the globe that personally finance war, crime, and regimes. It's basically like the supervillain bank of the world. I think that's how they explain it. Similarly, the Outsiders first appeared in Green Arrow number 17 by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino from 2013. And they are an ancient secret society of weapon clans who manipulate history from the shadows, with each clan built around a different weapon and tradition that ties directly to Oliver's family history. These two have a lot different about them, but they also have a lot in common. Like how they're both ancient organizations that pull the strings from the shadows, but also how Robert Queen was a member of the Outsiders, where Moira Queen was a member of the Ninth Circle. And there are aspects from both that I want to explore in this movie. So for this, I'm gonna combine the two of them, if that's all right. One thing that I want to do that wasn't the case in the comics is I don't think I want a definitive big bad to face off against. The Outsiders had Komodo and the Ninth Circle had Dante, and those characters are great, especially Komodo. I didn't kill him off because of petty stuff. This isn't Malcolm Merlin we're talking about. I really like Komodo, but I think it would be a little bit too easy. If these organizations are going to be allegories for real world systemic issues that define our lives, it would feel a little disingenuous to have a superhero just shoot a boxing glove arrow and save the day. In the real world, these problems don't always have faces. They don't always have an answer. And it's actually that ambiguity that pushes people down a pipeline of being manipulated. There's no face to your groceries being more expensive or stagnant wages or the cost of housing increasing. So instead, the people in power point their finger at immigrants or trans people or people of color. So much like culture war bullshit is defined by scapegoats and fear-mongering that's specifically meant to distract you from real material problems. So what are you supposed to do when there's no bad guy to punch? What's left for you to focus on? We cut to a building overlooking the safe house. The rain pounds against the windows as we see Shadow. She's communicating with her superiors, the board of the Ninth Circle, telling them that she's located not just the boy, but also Queen, Roy Harper, Dinah Lance, and the base of their entire operation. She's getting ready to infiltrate but the voice on the line stops her. It tells her that after much consideration, Shadow isn't equipped to handle this mission. After failing to capture Hawk, she's failed one too many times, and a new mission leader will be arriving shortly. Shadow tries to argue, but the call ends with a click, and there's a tap, tap, tap as a hand knocks on the door. We cut back to Dinah and Oliver at the greenhouse. Oliver doesn't want to hear any more about the Ninth Circle or his father. It has to be some kind of lie, but Dinah assures him it's the truth. He doesn't have to do anything about it. If Oliver just wants to spend the rest of his days smashing heads and hoping to end up in the ground, that's his decision. But she figured she should at least let him know. She does genuinely appreciate all that Oliver did for Connor. He's a good kid, after all. Takes after his mom and his dad. Oliver asks how obvious it is, and Dinah says he's one goatee away from being a spitting image. He asks if Connor knows, and she doesn't think so, but Oliver needs to talk to him. Tell him before. That's when the power goes out across the whole building. While they try to get the lights back on, Dinah realizes that they're being attacked. There's a gunshot, and Oliver manages to avoid a bullet. The backup generator turns on and he sees the attacker, a man in a black mask. Onomatopoeia. Bang. Listen, I told you I was gonna put him in everything, and god damn it, I meant it. Oh god, I hate this guy. Yeah, tell me about it. Oliver and Dinah fight off Onomatopoeia in the darkness. The muzzle flashes illuminating the room. There's an explosion and the glass ceiling above them shatters, and Shadow drops in on top of them, along with a whole squad of Komodo's militia. The entire safe house breaks into fighting. Dinah fights off Shadow, Roy and Connor try to defend themselves from the militia, and Oliver keeps fighting Onomatopoeia. He manages to drive an arrow into the serial killer's leg, but he pulls it out with a shulk and walks it off like it's nothing. Ah, Jesus Christ, don't you ever get tired? In the chaos, Onomatopoeia manages to get a hold of Connor and inject him with a tranquilizer. The boy falls unconscious in seconds, and with the target apprehended, Onomatopoeia grapples up through the ceiling, but not before leaving a little present. Ping! He pulls the pin out of a grenade and tosses it behind him. Boom. The grenade explodes, setting the greenhouse ablaze, and Onomatopoeia escapes with Connor. As the dust settles, Roy, Dinah, and Oliver free themselves from the rubble and manage to escape. Sin and the others made it out too. Oliver tries to go after Connor, but Dinah tells them he's miles away by now. If they want any chance of saving him, they need answers. Something concrete about the Ninth Circle that can tell them where they're taking him. Oliver sighs. He says he might know something. It's a long shot, but it might work. There's only one place in the world Oliver Queen knows where to find answers, but they're gonna need an aeroplane. We cut to a beach on an island in the middle of the North China Sea, and Oliver Queen steps onto the island sands for the first time in 8 years. As Roy and Dinah step off the plane into this uncharted territory, Oliver can't believe that he's back here, in what he used to think was his own personal hell. Oliver leads Roy and Dinah through the island jungle, ducking under branches, avoiding pitfalls and wildlife. It's like he knows it better than he knows his own home, and they come across a huge stone obelisk in the center of the island. Oliver says that he found this thing on his 3rd day of living here. Never quite figured out what it was. He assumed it was from some indigenous people that have long since left, and this was the only thing here he never understood. If the truth about the Ninth Circle and what Vertigo meant about the island are anywhere, it has to be here. There's an inscription in the stone that Oliver never noticed before. It reads, "To reach hell, strike the devil's heart." Oliver figures it's some kind of test to shoot an arrow into the right spot. At first, Oliver aims his bow at the ground, towards the depths of hell, but then he stops himself. Instead, he fires the arrow straight into the air. Roy says Oliver can't be serious. If you miss, it'll make a kebab out of your head. Well, then it's a good thing I never miss. The arrow falls from the sky and lands in a hidden slot right at the top of the obelisk. To the Ninth Circle, the devil isn't underground. He's built by the people at the top. The structure drops, opening up a staircase that leads beneath the island surface. They follow it down to discover a base, hidden underground all this time, right under Oliver's nose. It's been long since abandoned, but there are files and notes all over the place about Oliver, his quote-unquote progress, his first meal, his first time he made fire, crafting his first bow, just according to plan. All the research conducted by Robert Queen. As all this is happening, we see Connor as he's being held captive. The newly demoted Shadow enlisted to watch over him. He starts talking to her, and at first she doesn't want to engage, but over time, with Connor's calm demeanor, he starts to get through to her. He offers a little bit of his own life and his training with the monks. They taught him that violence doesn't fix the world, and Shadow scoffs. She learned the opposite. She was forced to. Her father died in disgrace. Her mother killed right in front of her eyes. She grew up with a weapon in her hands and a list of names. Violence is the only language that power will listen to. And Connor says that maybe it's just the loudest. We learn that when Shadow first crossed paths with the Circle, she thought that they were her salvation. They gave her the training and resources to hunt down the Yakuza who killed her father. It's even how she met the man she loved. She believed in them. Only later did she realize that they never cared about her or her cause. They just knew how useful her anger was, and she just didn't see it until it was too late. And now the only reason Shadow is doing this is because of her daughter. The Ninth Circle has been threatening her, using her as blackmail to force Shadow into falling in line. Connor asks Shadow what her daughter's name is, but she snaps at him, saying that if he says another word, she'll send an arrow through his jugular. The two sit in silence for a moment before Shadow smiles quietly. Emiko. Her name is Emiko. Back at the island, we learn more and more about Robert Queen's involvement with the Ninth Circle. They discover a series of video logs where Robert says so himself. He was a high-ranking member, as was his father and every queen that came before him. But Robert was the architect behind some of their most ambitious operations before his death. What Oliver thought was a safari accident turns out was a lie. Robert Queen faked his death years ago and lived here on the island and in this base for the duration of Oliver's time here. All of this time, his own father was literally right under him, watching him struggle to survive, and chose to let him starve, like some kind of lab rat. But that's just the Queen family way, I guess. Oliver being stranded here was all an intentional plan. The archery training, the boat, the island, all of it. It had all been orchestrated from the beginning to turn him into a weapon, an assassin for the Ninth Circle, born with Queen family blood coursing through his veins, to forge him through fire into someone who will kill when asked, and ensure the Order continues making a profit. Robert even had another child with another woman, a daughter, basically an insurance policy in case Oliver's trials didn't work out. But he believes so fiercely in his son that there's no other mention of her, not even her name. Oliver can't believe it. A life Robert built from lies. Another kid Oliver failed without even knowing she existed, who's been living with the fallout of the Queen family mistakes, just like Roy, just like Connor. Someone he's never met and may not ever meet, but still a sister. Oliver's training didn't go according to the Ninth Circle's plan. Instead of falling into despair and hardening into an obedient killer like Robert had anticipated, he survived off of hope, forged himself into not a weapon, but a hero, and managed to claw his way back to freedom without them. The life of Oliver Queen was a failed experiment, and when he didn't meet expectations, the Ninth Circle turned on Robert, slaughtered him and his wife Moira, and fed his corpse to the animals. Now, normally I'm not really a fan of retconning a character's backstory to be some grand conspiracy, especially one that's designed to be an accident. I didn't really like it when it happened to Spider-Man with the totems, or Barry Allen being destined to get struck by lightning by the alien Mopey, but I think for a character like Green Arrow, it works. He's someone who constantly faces against corruption and conspiracy, questioning the things that he thinks he understands. And what better than to question the very thing that turned him into the man he is today? The idea was introduced in Lemire's run, where Oliver discovers that his shipwreck wasn't an accident. His time on the island was tied to his father and the larger hidden war with the Outsiders, basically turning the island into a planned crucible to train him into a weapon. It was a great story about Oliver's relationship with his father and the Queen family secrets, and it's something that I want to touch on here. Also, the island itself is a retcon. Seriously, when Green Arrow first appeared in the Golden Age, his origin was as a famous archaeologist. But then Jack Kirby came along with Adventure Comics number 256 in 1959 and changed it to being stranded on Starfish Island. Damn, that dude really was the king. The king of comics, if you will. The most recent video log isn't by Robert, but instead a shadowy figure wearing a mask, another member of the Ninth Circle, too cowardly to even show their faces. He states that Oliver Queen has a son, a young boy named Connor Hawk, trained in archery and master of hand-to-hand combat. It took some time to find him, but he would make the perfect weapon for the Circle. That's why they haven't killed him yet. They're not worried about the password to Sandra's financial backdoor. The real prize is Connor himself. They know Connor is Oliver's son, heir to the Queen family blood, and they plan to turn him into a weapon, just like they tried to do with him. Oliver sits on the beach, watching the ocean as the sun sets over the horizon. His entire life has been a lie, from the moment of his birth down to every last detail. Dinah comes over and sits next to him. He tells her that when he was stranded here, he used to just come out to this beach and sit. The first couple days he was trying to find help, but over time it became a tradition for him. At first, the island was hell. He was starving, burnt to a crisp by the sun, dying of thirst, barely managing to survive. But over time, he started to understand it. The plants, the animals, the weather. It was harsh, it was cruel, but there were rules to it. The violence made sense, and he eventually managed to overcome it. He misses it here, the quiet. It's peaceful. And since the moment he came back to Star City, everything became so noisy. The real world doesn't make sense. People work themselves to death so somebody's stock price can go up. Partners are beaten senseless out of love. The murder of school children is treated like an everyday occurrence. This violence doesn't have rules. He tried to make a difference as Green Arrow and as Oliver Queen, but with everything he did, he just kept screwing up, and it got noisier and noisier until the only thing he ever wanted was to go back to the quiet. Surviving is easy. Just food, water, shelter. Once you get that, it all makes sense. But living is hard. It's messy, it's complicated, and I don't want that anymore. I want to just keep on surviving. Dinah kisses Oliver on the forehead. But you have to live. Please. You have to. I am so tired, pretty bird. I know you are. I am too. I am so fucking tired. Then what do we do about it? The only thing we can do. We keep on living. But don't do it for you. Don't even do it for me. She holds out her hand to Oliver, and he looks up at her. Let's do it for him. The research station has blueprints for a base out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a massive oil rig that doubles as a black site stronghold called the Inferno. Robert Queen's idea of island trials didn't work to create the Ninth Circle's perfect weapon, so instead they'll forge Connor into that personally through pain and fire. Oliver, Dinah, and Roy take the plane over the base and see that there aren't any Ninth Circle members, but it's just crawling with militia. If they want any chance of finding Connor, they'll have to sneak in undetected, and Dinah stops them and says that she'll distract the militia while Roy breaks into the server room and Oliver saves his son. They'll stay on comms the whole time, and once Oliver's found Connor, he can tell Roy the passcode and they can shut the militia down. Before anyone can argue, she unbuckles her seatbelt and opens the plane door. What are you, crazy after all that talk of living? Oh, don't worry. I don't plan on dying today. Dinah leaps out of the plane and free falls into the inferno below. She didn't have a parachute, did she? Black Canary falls through the air and takes a big breath. She lets out a huge scream. The force of the Canary cry reverberates off the ground, softening her fall and knocking out everyone below. She lands on the base as more militia rush in to surround her and smirks. Let's give them a good show. Dinah fights off the militia like a one-woman army, and Roy swings the plane around to the other side of the base. Oliver leaps out at a more reasonable height and makes his way toward Connor. Connor is strapped to a chair near the Inferno's hangar bay, where he's being tortured by Onomatopoeia. He's branding the kid, burning him, trying to harden Connor into the same cold-blooded killer that he is. Oliver breaks into the room and fires an arrow, breaking Connor's restraints. The two of them fight off Onomatopoeia like father and son. Meanwhile, Roy lands the plane somewhere hidden and sneaks into the server room, and we intercut between him, Oliver and Connor, and Dinah fending off the militia. That's when a black arrow enters Onomatopoeia's chest, and the killer falls to the floor with a thud. And we see who fired it. Shadow. Shadow says she'll buy the two of them some time. She looks to Connor and says that her entire life she's known violence, but she's willing to give peace a chance. For her daughter's sake, for Emiko. Shadow runs down the hall, taking out militia members before she disappears from sight. Roy's made it through the servers, and he just needs Sandra's passcode. Connor takes out his mother's jade necklace, and he reads the engraving. Moon Day. Oliver chuckles. I guess she didn't hate him as much as he thought she did. The code gives Roy complete administrative control of not just Robin Hood and the Komodo militia funds, but also this entire base. The Ninth Circle was treating the Inferno like their personal bank of operations, like a literal offshore account. And Sandra's backdoor virus gives him full access. He manages to reroute the Robin Hood funds back to the people with a good amount of billionaire blood money just to add on top, separating it, dividing it up so that nobody can take advantage of it, and puts the account on lockdown so that nobody, not even the government, could change it. An alarm starts to blare across the entire base, and a timer starts to count down. The base's self-destruct sequence. Roy says that it must be some kind of fail-safe protocol in case the Inferno gets compromised, to erase any proof that it was here. This scares the remaining militia to gather their buddies' unconscious bodies and make a run for it. They're not getting paid enough to die for some billionaires, especially now. And after Dinah, there were a lot of unconscious bodies. Dinah tells everybody to meet at the plane before the base goes up in flames. Oliver and Connor start to make their way out before a blast door closes in front of them, cutting them off and trapping them in the hangar. And Onomatopoeia slowly picks himself up off the floor. He pulls the arrow from his chest like it was nothing. Oliver unloads 3 more into the killer, but it doesn't even faze him. His blood trickles to the ground. Drip, drop. He aims his gun at Connor's skull, and we hear a voice over the loudspeaker. Drop the bow or the kid gets it. A nearby screen flickers to life, where we see a shadowy figure wearing a mask to conceal his identity. He's surrounded by dozens of others wearing the same. The board of the Ninth Circle. Not even brave enough to show up in person. Figures. Roy and Dinah try to talk to Oliver through his communicator, see what's going on, but the circle makes him take out the earpiece and crush it. Onomatopoeia forces Oliver and Connor onto a nearby military aircraft. He duct tapes their hands together. The board explains that it's armed with an advanced bioweapon, capable of annihilating an entire city in minutes. Its flight is entirely automated, and the course is set for Star City. The Ninth Circle's experiment in Star City was clearly a failure. The people there are just proving too difficult to manage. And the best course of action is to drain the swamp to start fresh. They'll clear out the dead and get new citizens moved in by next week. Maybe they could even raise the rent a bit while they're at it. Make a 0.5% profit margin. Connor was supposed to be the one to help them do that as their new enforcer, but since he hasn't really been very cooperative and Oliver can't get over this hero complex, they figured the most efficient solution to their predicament was to put the two of them on board. The Green Arrow will not die a hero, but is the man who destroyed Star City. The plane takes off and makes its way towards Star City, with impact in under an hour. Connor tries to reason with Onomatopoeia, saying that these people are just using him as a pawn. He doesn't have to die for this. But the masked man doesn't respond. He just sits there, gun drawn, silent. With Connor's peaceful strategy giving them no such luck, Oliver headbutts Onomatopoeia, stunning him enough for Connor to knock the gun out of his hand. The three of them fight throughout the plane. Oliver pulls one of the arrows out of Onomatopoeia's chest, but he's thrown back across the cabin. Connor might be a good enough fighter to hold him off for a time, but Oliver's completely useless without a bow. His eyes dart around the plane. All he has is one arrow with duct tape on his wrist, a cargo strap, and oh, now we're talking. Onomatopoeia slashes at Connor's leg before they both hear a whistle. The two of them look across the cabin to see Oliver. He's wrapped a cargo strap around a pair of seats and knocked the arrow against it. He draws back on the makeshift bow. Say dirtbag. He launches the arrow at Onomatopoeia, hitting him square in the chest. It has something else crudely taped onto it. A grenade with the pin pulled. Boom? Connor kicks him to the back of the plane and dives for cover, and the grenade explodes, engulfing Onomatopoeia in a ball of flame. It blows the cargo door open, flinging out his body 30,000 feet into the Pacific Ocean. Connor closes the cargo door and tries to take manual control of the plane to change course, and Oliver goes to disarm the bioweapon. The bomb's armor plating kept it protected from the grenade. He opens up the control panel and reaches his hand in before a steel latch clamps down around it. It's a trap. The bioweapon has an anti-tamper mechanism to prevent anybody from disarming the payload without authorization. If Oliver tries to pull his arm out in any way, day, the bomb detonates, killing both him and Connor. But there's another way. If Connor were to cut off Oliver's hand, he could escape without the bomb going off. With only minutes until they're above Star City, Oliver has a choice: to lose his bow hand or die. In Green Arrow number 101 by Chuck Dixon and Rodolfo DiMaggio from 1995, Oliver Queen died. He was forced onto a plane by a terrorist group that contained an experimental bioweapon and was going to disperse it across Metropolis. There's a firefight, Oliver gets shot, and he ends up with his hand stuck in the bomb's dead man switch. Superman shows up and tells Oliver that the only way out of it is for him to cut off his hand. Oliver says he doesn't want to live a life without a hand. I like to believe it was because he didn't want to lose the one thing that made him special, the ability to shoot a bow, to be Green Arrow. And so he chooses death. The bomb detonates and Green Arrow is blown to bits. This was a deeply frustrating moment for the character, one that reeks of macho bravado and frankly a lot of 90s ableism. But it was a moment that unfortunately was more or less in character for Oliver Queen. That self-sabotage, that bullheadedness, the inability to think about the consequences of his own actions, made even worse by the fact that just 10 issues prior, he finally met Connor Hawke. He left that kid all alone just so he could be a martyr. And for 6 years, Oliver Queen stayed dead. Connor took up the mantle of Green Arrow in a stretch of genuinely great stories before Oliver returned in 2001 with Kevin Smith and Phil Hester's Quiver. And upon rereading that story, it got me thinking, if we could go back and do it all over again, should things end up the same? After everything, after all of his failures and his mistakes, is that the kind of ending that Oliver Queen deserves? Oliver refuses to lose his hand. He can't stop being Green Arrow. He can't give up fighting. It's the only thing that gives his life meaning. He tells Connor to take a parachute and get far away from here. When he's in the clear, he'll take his arm out and make sure the weapon doesn't hurt anybody in the city. Listen, there's something I have to tell you. It's something I should have said a long time ago. Connor, I'm your Oliver. I know. I've always known. Ever since I was a kid. Oliver chuckles. Of course you do. And after this time that I've been able to spend with you, I just want to say I am so proud of you and the person that you've become. You are everything that I wish I was and so much more. Oliver, we can talk about this later. You know, when you were born, your mother came looking for me. 18 years ago, she came straight from the hospital right to my door, carrying this little sleeping baby in her arms. And I held you. Mom never told me. I was a different person back then, and I knew that I would just disappoint you. So I cut her a check and went on my way. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and that was one of them. But just for that moment, when I held you in my arms, this beautiful, fragile little boy, it was the first time in my life that I felt peace. So you see why I have to do this? Why I can't just give up? Connor puts his hand on his father's shoulder. Dad, please, you have to live. We cut to 3 weeks later. The Green Arrow is dead, killed in an explosion above the Pacific Ocean, saving millions of lives. In spite of the past few years, an official funeral is held for him, attended by only a couple dozen people. Among them, on a rooftop above, is Superman and Batman, paying their respects. The Star City militia didn't disappear overnight, but without proper funding, it slowly fizzled away until it was just a scar that lingered on the city's soul. Onomatopoeia's body was never found. The Ninth Circle still continues to operate even in Star City, its members completely anonymous. But Green Arrow's sacrifice put such a dent in their operation that they won't show their masked faces for a long while. We see Connor Hawke. He stands at the edge of a cliffside, overlooking a vast forest, trees as far as the eye can see. In The Legend of Robin Hood, when the hero was dying, he didn't want a king's burial. So instead, he fired an arrow into the woods, and he said that wherever that arrow falls, that is where he wanted to be buried. Connor aims his bow to the sky and fires an arrow. It soars through the air, spinning, bending, and warping, the winds and forces of the earth raging against it. But eventually, with hope and a little bit of a song, it finds its target. He tracks where the arrow landed, in a small clearing in the wood. There's a voice behind Connor. Seems as good a place as any. And we see Oliver Queen jogging to catch up to his son. He's holding a shovel. Now, give me a hand with this. He holds up his arm, revealing a bandaged stump where his hand used to be. In more ways than one, right? Huh? How long were you thinking about that one? Oh, the whole way here. The two of them dig a hole, right where the arrow landed. Are you sure about this? Oliver pulls his bow from his back and drops it in the hole. Yeah, more sure than anything. Besides, I've got you to carry that torch. We cut to a kitchen table where we see Oliver with the whole gang. Dinah, Roy, Connor, Hal, even Mia Dearden was invited. They sit at the table eating the infamous Oliver Queen spicy chili, sharing stories, laughing. His family. Well, not everybody. That's when there's a knock at the door. Oliver opens it to see a young girl, no older than 13. He doesn't need to ask who she is. He already knows. Hi. My name's Emiko. My mother told me you had an invitation and that I'd be safe here. Oliver, without thinking, wraps his arms around the girl. They always have a seat at the table for family. Emiko nervously joins the rest of the Arrow family, who each welcome her in with open arms. There's still work to be done. There's always more work to be done. The Ninth Circle, corruption, greed, it'll never truly go away. It will always creep around the corner. But what matters, what truly matters, is having people alongside you to keep you fighting. Oliver Queen may never be able to hold a bow again, but he doesn't care. It was worth it. As he looks at this table filled with the faces of the people he loves, the people who he saved, who saved him, it all makes sense to him. And for the first time in years since he left that island, he feels peace. This is what it's all been about. Not surviving, living. This video is long, but I felt like if I was going to do a Green Arrow video, I wanted to make it the Green Arrow video. I want to cover as many possible things, dive deep into this character and his history and his supporting cast and the things that make him who he is as much as I humanly can. For those of you who are completely new to this character, I hope that this video convinced you to read some Green Arrow comics. If you're looking for a place to start, you can't go wrong with any of the books I talked about here, so I'll try to have my recommendations down below if you want to check them out. I don't really know how to end this video, I'm gonna be honest. What I want to say, what I kind of want to leave off on, every day I look at the news, I see endless cruelty, I see hatred, and I see bigotry, and I see, people in power who don't give two shits about the people that put them there. I see all of these things, and every day I just kind of want to tap out. I want to go further and further into nihilism and cynicism and just give up. It's Green Arrow that keeps me going. This guy with a bow and arrow and a little green hat gives me hope that somebody out there, no matter who, is willing to make a change. That's what the character of Green Arrow shows me. He shows me that there is hope in still changing the world. And also how to make a good pot of chili, which is equally as important. But what would you want to see out of a Green Arrow movie? Did you watch this far into the video? Please tell me you did. This is a long one. If you like this video, be sure to the like button and subscribe. Special thanks to all my channel members and patrons, including JPlay, who just joined the spectacular tier. This was a really big video. I really hope it lived up to expectations. This has been TroyBoy17 coming at you live. Be responsible, happy holidays, and I will see you around.